and ever-changing views, and computer terminology, Commodore news. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello, and welcome to episode 78 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills, and I'm joined as always by Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our second batch of games from issue 34 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were flummoxed by Flying Shark, vexed by Vengeance, and enjoyed a coronary, courtesy of Clever and Smart. This week, we continue our look at the games in February 1988, along with what was lighting up our TV screens that month. So Graham, tell us exactly what we have going on in this episode.
In this small-town music festival, with headlining local indie bands, The Three Bens, Insanity Plea, and No One Owns My Dustbin, performances from Syntax, Digital Persuasion, and Derek 8, as well as local drum and bass legends Smash the Egg, and a live non-stop world record attempt dance mix from DJ Panda of an episode. We grab our footy boots and head into an 8-bit stadium for a slow but strategic kickabout, with the fun but option-heavy Matchday 2. Stare with ignominy at the utterly bewildering game design resulting from a 7-year camping trip with the spinny Eye. Hump and flump our way around a dirty maze as a dragon, cunningly disguised as a troll in the boulder dashy Reptonish Bone Cruncher, before picking one of the two tunes on the CD player, choosing one of the two gears, and zooming off in our Ferrari El Blocco in the nippy but chunky C64 arcade conversion of the almighty Sega arcade Outrun. If you've got tired of the main stage and have decided to explore the more niche acts in the festival lineup, such as the folk trio The Shenanigans, 80s hair metal band White Spirit, or the unusual Who Snow Patrol tribute band Pinball Blizzard, we also grab our water cannons and begin the long climb to rescue dogs and people from the towering infernos of arcade conversion Firetrap. Explore the insane difficulty spikes of yet another stupidly onerous 8-bit left-to-right run-and-jump nightmare with Freddy Hardest, blatantly disregard all advice to the contrary, and take a boring Burke-flavoured sojourn into Dullsville by going through the trapdoor, before finally grabbing our shin pads, crisps and extra long socks as we ready ourselves for more football, this time exploring the absenteeism of Gary Lineker's Superstar Soccer. February has proven to be challenging, a bit like eating a bag of Revels, some chocolatey goodness for sure in there, but somewhere, you know, there's the coffee cream. Waiting, just waiting to ruin your day. Get your onions. Get your onions.
Don't want no onions.
Onions. That's a dog. Onions. For God's sake, I know I shouldn't have called him that. People think I'm a market seller selling onions all the time. Stupid dog.
They would. Just to say that the way time works is that we've had a week off, haven't we? Which has been quite nice.
A week off, yes.
We have, but that's for you. You listen to this in the future. Our future will be thinking, no, you haven't. I was listening to an episode last week. But that's not how time works or our episodes work. Whereas we have actually had a week off. So now I'm speaking to you in the future from the past. That's how it works.
Uh-oh, I'm getting a total Excalibur vibe.
The future has taken root in the present.
It is done.
It is done.
Knights, squires. People who old stuff for knights and squires, whatever they're called.
I don't know. What were they called?
Squatters.
Squatters. Yeah, probably.
I don't think that's true.
I don't either. Anyway, yes, episode 78. Wow, we're going 3 episodes into this chunky month again. Another 4-parter. Good Lord.
It
so
is.
What's going on?
It's a big old knitted jumper, this one, isn't it?
It says it's going to keep you warm through the winter, unlike the energy cap. That's not going to keep anyone warm.
Bit of politics, me.
Absolutely. Oh, in Liz we trust. No, we don't. Not at all.
Did you see, by the way, just as an aside, that there's a Twitter account for Liz Truss, but it's not actually Liz Truss. Liz Truss's real account is Truss Liz, @Truss Liz. There's a woman who's called Liz Truss who's getting loads and loads of reposts and all sorts, and she's like, it's not me. I'm not that person. She's just stopped taking to it now. Like, yeah, okay, I am that person. And she's not.
Well, she is that person. She's Liz Truss.
She is Liz Truss. She's not just not the Prime Minister, which is kind of hilarious.
It is kind of hilarious. Anyway, there we go. Yeah. Right. Should we get into this? I think we should. We've got loads. Well, we've got 8 games. TV.
Go, Flash, go.
All right. Let's get into our first one. And a bookend. It's a bookend month. Week. It's a bookend week. And the bookend this week is football. So let's all go football crazy this episode because it's the bookend. Hang on a minute, pause. I've got a spider in the room.
Do I actually just capture it and throw it away?
Well, I've got nothing to capture it with right now. And
Get a glass, an empty glass. Don't kill spiders, mate. That's
I'm just going to grab it. Hang on a minute. This is great podcasting. No, hang on. I'll be back in a minute.
It's only a little one. Here we see the native Adrian, who is terribly afraid of a spider.
It's over there somewhere.
It's only a spider.
It is. It's only a little one as well, but it's just annoying me crawling amongst all my controllers and shit. Anyway, right. Where was I? That break was brought to you by Spider Invasion. Obviously, if, to our Australian listeners, if they saw what I just got freaked out at, they'd be like, that's not a spider.
Yeah, they would actually, because the spiders, they're the size of houses.
Yeah, they are.
I've heard.
It's like phase 4. But with spiders over there.
That's phase 3. Phase 4 was just ants. That was all ants.
Yeah,
phase 3 was the spiders. Phase 2 was pigeons for some reason.
And phase 1 was pit hamsters.
Yes. And don't ever mess with the hamsters.
Night the lepers. It is football week. And to celebrate football week, we have our first game. And our first game is a 90% sizzler. A sizzler, I tell you. It is Matchday 2. Matchday 2. It's football. It's $8.95. It's from Ocean. It's Matchday 2. So aside from international soccer, I don't think we've been really enamoured with any of the other attempts to bring the beautiful game to the C64. Will this sizzling sequel to the forgotten Matchday change all that? Let's don our sheepskin jacket, grow our hair and moustaches, and dive on in to find out in 80s style. This is from Ocean. As I said, it's a sequel to the original Matchday, which had also been ported from the original Spectrum version to the C64 and was absolutely awful. Did you look at the original Matchday at all in preparation for this? I'd never seen it.
Unfortunately, I did.
Good Lord. What was that?
I wish I hadn't.
No, I don't remember that original version at all. I don't remember ever catching eyes on it. But it's like they just took the sprite from Daley Thompson or Hypersport, something, didn't they? And just had them running around at what looked like a ball, chasing a ball.
Something went badly wrong.
Awful. Like World Cup Carnival, awful. Jimmy Hayes big. Anyway, so it's a low bar to clear here to be better than its predecessor. So the original Spectrum and Amstrad versions of this were designed by the pairing of Mr. John Rittman and Bernie Drummond of Head Over Heels and Batman fame. And the C64 version was ported by John Darnell, who had previously worked on games such as Star Paws, and Kane. Music on this version is by Jonathan Dunn, and the title screen is by Mr. Simon Butler. And the game loads up, you get a decent piece of music that sets the tone, and there's a wealth of options to choose from, but in a very awkward manner. This is one of the more awkward choosing of options I've come across.
It is a bit of an awkward button prodder. It
is. The first thing you were asked if you want to play single player, 2-player, or no joysticks at all. So keys for all, I guess. But so they're in a list 1, 2, 3. Instead of having an up and down and enter or fire to select, any key, any direction, anything moves the option down, and the Commodore key selects the option. This method of menu navigation continues through all the menus, and it makes them much harder to navigate than they need to be. Allow me to go up in your menu. I'm not asking much. If I go down a couple, I may want to go up to the one above. I shouldn't have to cycle all the way around using up. It just makes no sense.
Maybe in the instructions it says press the Commodore key not once, not twice, but thrice.
To get straight into a game, yeah. What? It's just stupid. I press the fire button, but the fire button moves you down. Everything moves you down. And then until you get to the bottom, you loop to the top. Anyway, strange menu selection methods aside, after selecting your method of play, which you can actually change in game as well, so it seems a pointless, arbitrary option as well. You can actually change that when you get into it. It's like, it doesn't lock you into that type of game. You don't matter. You get 6 more options. So these options are, you can play a 1-player game, a 2-player game, a twin-player game, so a co-op game. You can do a cup, you can do a league, and there are options. There are tons of options in this. So before we get to the game, let's take a look at these options, because the game offers quite a lot. So under the title Matchday Options, you can alter the sound from loud or quiet effects or music in game. You can pick the time of the halves from 5, 10 or 15 minutes. You can change the kickometer, but I'll explain what that is when we get to the gameplay. You can go from forward kicks, hard kicks, kick 2, kick 3, or all kicks. Okay, that's what you can do. Those are your options. There's no explanation of what any of that means at this point. So
sounds like the instructions for Roadhouse.
Kick, and hard kick. All the kicks. You can opt to watch the computer-only games in the cup or league mode. So if you're playing a couple, you can just watch them going on if you want to do that, or just see them. See the score at the end. You can change the CPU skill from low to medium to high, and you can set the keeper to be controlled by either the computer or the player. Back in the options, so that's just in the Matchday options bit. So that's a sub-options menu. Back in the options menu, you can redefine the keys for player 1 and player 2. You can change all the team names, so have at it. You can call them what you want. You can alter the tactics from playing attacking or defensive, but you can do that in game as well, so again, it seems a bit pointless right out here. You can even alter the colour scheme, so if you want a pale blue team facing off against a team in bright green on a purple pitch, have at it. Do it. Go for it. I don't know why you want to do that, but you could do it.
Why wouldn't you? Well, why wouldn't you do that? That's
well,
the question.
The question is why wouldn't you? Anyway, back to the main game and the options for play. All options lead to a game of football, obviously, but one player is just a one-off against the computer. 2 player is you against another player, another human opponent. But twin player sees you playing on the same side as each other against the computer. So that's quite nice. You both control a player, and you can team up and go against the AI. Quite nice. The cup and the league options start either a cup, where you have to make it through the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and the final. Alternatively, the league sees a full league play out between the 8 teams available. There's some clever touches in this as well, in that when you start a cup, you have the option to change who is playing in any game. So you can still do 1 player, 2 player, or co-op for any game that is played. So you can play in every single one if you want. And it's the same for the league as well. There's an option to see the cup table, so scores so far and who's in which round, what have you, who's playing who. And in the league, you can see the league table at any time. You can also start a new league or cup if things have gone wrong for you, and you can start an old one. So that's quite good. To do this, you use a code. Every time a game is played and you go back to the league or cup mode, there's a code across the bottom of the screen. So write down that code. So it's essentially your save code. So to start an old one, you enter that code on the screen, and it will start the cup from that point, or the league, with all scores and results intact. Very nice, very clever. I like that. That's a nice touch. It's a long code, but it's a code, so just write it down. Once you've chosen what to do, you get to the game itself. Okay. So the game is presented in standard football view, so computer football view, from the side of the pitch. So with the scrolling camera to the left and right as the action moves in that direction. So think international soccer. It's that view. Each team consists of 7 players, 3 attackers, 3 defenders, and 1 goalkeeper. And they'll come trotting out from the tunnel when it starts off. Once set up, pressing fire sets the game in motion. And if you have kickoff, you can then press fire with the direction to start, or the computer will if they have it. So kickoff, basically. You don't kick off somewhere, you can just boot it wherever. And it's right here. So as the game starts, you need to get used to the kickometer. So what is the kickometer, I hear you ask? At the top of the screen is a bar, and this bar is constantly moving from sort of left to right and back again, actually going back on itself. So it starts at, so imagine it's slightly to the left, there's a bar, and it moves fully up to in 3 sections all the way up to one side, comes back down again, and then goes off to the left a little bit. And what that does is a couple of black squares, and it goes back to the left. If you've although just saying that, this is dependent on the choice you made back in the options, way back in the options. So where it's doing the kick 1, kick 2, that will lock it in. But if you kick out, for the sake of covering everything, I'll assume you just choose all kicks, because that's the best thing you want to do. And now this represents the power and direction of the kick you will do when you press the fire button. The higher the bar, the further and higher the pass. If it goes to black, you'll do a back heel. So you can back heel on this, you can do all those kind of things. This bar is replicated over the head of the player you are controlling, so it's easy to see as you're running around the pitch. The player you're controlling has got that little kickometer going up and down, so you can you don't need to check on the UI at the top, because the UI is fairly basic. It's just the score and stuff and time left and the kickometer going up and down. Now, if you hold the fire button down as the ball is traveling to you, the bar above your head, player's head, will lock. And when you control the ball, you'll do a low pass at that speed immediately upon gaining control in the direction you are moving, or you are facing, or you are pressing. So that's quite handy. So if you want to do an immediate pass, so if someone passes to you and you want to pass it straight away at a certain pace, you can wait for the kickometer to get there before the ball arrives, hold the fire button, press the direction you want, boom, pass straight away. That's quite nice. You can also jump if the ball is in the air near you by pressing the fire button, and this allows you to head the ball and get in the way of long passes and stuff like that, and ties in with the diamond deflection system, TM, that the game employs.
Fancy.
I know, fancy that. What this means is that the direction the ball bounces off you is modelled accurately, so it's possible to do glancing headers and the like, as well as jump in the air. So it's not all 8 directions. If you get a little glancing touch on the ball, it'll fly off, it'll change its angle slightly. So that's actually quite nice. There's some nice physics here. So, you can head the ball, you can hold the fire button, volley it into the net if you're good enough to get a crossover, jump up in the air, meet it on the volley and boot it, and it'll fly into the net if you're good enough. It's all possible. It's quite good. The games play out over the time you allotted. They simulate a full 90 minutes, and it just has everything you'd expect from a game of football. Proper rules. There's no offsides or anything, so that's all out the window. But there's corners, throw-ins, goal kicks. It's all present and correct. Everything you'd expect. The visuals for the game, they're a bit squished. The players being a little squashed in stature. They look a bit like Ramban, I thought. So it's like watching a load of Ram Man running around the pitch. But it's okay. They do the job. They serve the purpose. The animations are adequate. They're just running around. It's just, players at angles and stuff running about, and that's fine. There's a bit of flickering to the sprites at times, so I think there's some issues with the multiplexer at points because sometimes they flicker in and out, I think, and sometimes the layering of the sprites is off. So if you've got one that should be behind the other, so the higher up the pitch you're behind it, sometimes they're in front, and that can be a bit disorientating. So there's that. But generally the visuals they're okay. They do their job. They display a game of football. The main issue that a lot of people have with the game though is the speed and responsiveness is a tad slow. It's a bit on the slow side, and it really can't be argued against. And what that does, it plays it displays into the responsiveness of pressing the fire button to pass, because I think that the slowness is tied into the update. So I think it's not quite as fast as you kind of want it to be to pass sometimes. Sometimes I just found it just wasn't registering, or registers too late, and you end up doing a back heel rather than a short pass, and that can be quite annoying. But that said, I thought this does play actually a decent game of football. Yeah, it's not that fast paced, but there is actually a real pleasure in picking the ball up, working upfield and getting a shot off, or even better, scoring a goal. There's a sense of passing. There's a sense of you can set some moves up. It does feel like there's a bit of a game of football going on rather than just a random happenstance we've seen in a lot of other games. Things like World Cup Carnival and that five-a-side soccer and things like that, where it's just the ball goes where it wants to go and the players are all over the shop and it's just a bit crap and rubbish. This feels like there's some brains behind it, and the AI is not too bad. Passes will go where you want them to. The game usually picks the right player for you to control when it's near the ball, and so there's a good sense of a game of footy here. It's possible to work it down the wing, get a cross in, and go for the header. And it feels like a much more accurate representation of the game than any. International soccer is great, but international soccer is not really good representation of football. You could run down the field just heading it, which is stupid, but the game's enjoyable. So I think this is the best representation of the game of anything we've played so far. The wealth of options on display, the code-based leagues and cups, the ability to play in co-op. I thought this is a really good football game, despite the speed at which it runs, because that speed, actually allows you to plan and prepare what you intend to do. If you once you get used to it, I'm not saying it's not fast, it's not slow, it is. But once you get used to it and you get into the rhythm of the game, I was playing this for quite a while. To launch a ball forward, get your player to nod it in a slight direction past their waiting defender, and pick it up with one of your attackers to continue onwards. Yeah, it works well. So despite my initial misgivings at the speed when it started up, once I got used to that and the way the kickometer worked, which can be locked into just one type of kick if that's how you want to play it, as I said, kick 3, kick 2, all kicks, whatever. I had some decent games of football on this, and scoring a goal felt quite enjoyable, quite the triumph. I was like, yeah, this is all right. Difficulty levels as well. You can play against low, medium, and hard, and depending on how good you get. And I can see why Zapped gave this the score they did. I imagine in their offices, there's probably football fans there, and they probably enjoyed this, especially in twin mode, where this game does actually come alive. And I remember playing this a lot on the Amstrad, and we played a lot of it in co-op, and it is really enjoyable in co-op mode. One of the very first sort of co-op against the AI games I've sort of ever known, but I didn't really play it on the C64 much back then. But going back to this, it may not be as good either visually or in the sense of speed as that Amstrad version. I still enjoyed my time with it. I thought this was a decent game of footy, and so yeah, I was quite happy with this. Good, decent game, if just a little slow. But I imagine your mileage may vary as in how much you like football, which I think I'll ask you now. What did you think of it?
I think that it's a game that's trying to rise to the challenge. At last, a game rises to the challenge of the mighty international soccer. Someone's got to take it on. It can't just be that one. And there are so many options for this. It's kind of hard not to like it if you're a football fan, isn't it? Really?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
There's not much you can't control in this game. It's nothing if not option friendly. I thought some of the other superstar type games had options, but this one is like option crazy. And the menu system's quite nice and the UI is quite nice. So for the more casual player, I think those, literally me, who doesn't really like football and is not really into football games, so casual player / player that would, but I don't think those kind of people like me would have this if that was the case. But those options are kind of more of a hindrance, but you can just dive straight in the old 3 Commodore key presses and you're in the game. And then what you're going to find is a game that is slow, and that's the compromise that they've had to reach for the extensive kicking controls and all the strategic part of the game. Now, I agree with you, actually. Now, I didn't have to say right from the get-go, this is never going to be my forte or cup of tea in the slightest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to criticize this game for being slow, because it obviously is slow, but that's not really the point of this. That slowness does give you that time to think about what you're doing a bit. And this isn't that kind of sort of kick and run around football game. And in all fairness, the only one that's really worked in that instance is international soccer. All the others that have tried to do any of this stuff haven't worked. So this one is a bit slower, granted, but it does allow you a lot of control and a lot of flexibility to play a game of football in all sorts of different ways. There's so much replayability in this game, it's ridiculous. So that said, football games like this don't appeal to me at all. That's because I'm not into football, and so this doesn't really interest me that much. But I am an advocate, as we've said many times when we've looked at sports games, if they are adhering to the complexities of the simulation they're trying to be, so if they're adhering to the rules of that sport, then that is to be applauded. And this one definitely does that. I mean, there's no question about that. And I think that's a particularly good thing about this, that there is so much method of play around it and so much to do and so much to change and so many options that I think that the small price you pay in terms of the compromise of speed it won't bother you. If you're really into that sort of stuff, you're going to dig this, and clearly you're evidence of that. Mm-hmm. So these games don't raise the fig leaf in my pants, shall we say, particularly. Or the fig leaf that is my pants, actually, right now. But that's a separate conversation.
So glad your camera is just on the top half. So glad. I don't want to see your fig leaf.
I'm just going to move the camera.
Hey!
So these games don't do much for me, and really they didn't until they got to the Amiga, and even then, really, because they became a little bit more insta-play and less, So all of the kind of the sensible games, sensible soccer games, and stuff like that. No, I know they apply leagues and all that sort of stuff like that, but at the same time, they didn't really get to me, and I didn't enjoy them until I could sort of do that kind of game. However, what we have here is a very well-made and competent game, albeit maybe a bit slow. I thought the graphics did work. Like you said, they are a bit squat, but so what? Yeah. I'd rather have squat. I think there's 7 players aside in this as well, isn't there?
Yes, 7, yeah.
Which is pretty impressive, all said and done. So I think there's a really good sense of a football game in here. I think what it captures for me was the atmosphere, which is often really hard to capture in a game like this. I thought it captured it pretty good. The crowd sounds and all of that. It actually had a bit of that. And that it takes a bit of time to do that. Well, I think that's no bad thing. It isn't for me, this. I totally get that. But I can imagine the football fraternity and the people who was craving for a football game at this time, and even now, this is pretty damn good. And they would definitely dig it. The music was odd. A little bit odd, but it kind of strangely worked, I suppose, so I say. But it's not. It was never going to be my thing or anything I got along with. But I totally get that it's probably the best football game I've seen since international soccer, and that's not bad crown. That's not a bad thing at all, is it? It's about time, really.
It is,
I was impressed with it, albeit it's just not my thing at all. Not my thing at all.
No, that's completely fair enough. I get it. I didn't think it would be, but if you take a step back and appreciate it for
absolutely,
for what it is.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. And I had some good games of football with it. Not a lot.
I could see how you would. I could see you'd really get into that. Not you personally, but you, yes, you personally, but also people who were into, I can imagine, this is really the precursor to the kind of FIFA type idea, I suppose, really now.
Yeah.
It's where they've got all that, the logic and the processing power to have all that AI-based logic and all of that stuff in it. But this is, on a 64K machine, pretty damn impressive, all said and done.
Yeah. I agree completely. Not going to argue against that. Good game. And enjoyed it.
Good game.
Like I said, good game. We'll speak about him later on. But like I said, I used to play this a lot on the Amstrad, and I remember that I had a quick look at that on YouTube, and it brought back a lot of memories. But it's just a good footy game. And that twin mode, the co-op mode, it was a real winner, a real beaut.
A peace resistance. You know what these are for, 00, huh? It's a beaut. A real winner. Your gadgets, 00. Huh?
A beaut.
A real winner. Absolutely.
You got a bug in your hair?
Absolutely.
Seriously, though.
I mean, this game has a gaggle of gimmicks.
Now, this is very interesting. Inside this buckle is a gang of gimmicks. A mighty handy item.
And so on.
Just pop the little what's it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a shame that this game don't write, but you can't have everything.
Your pen looks ordinary, and yet specially built. Another weapon. It won't write words, but you can't have everything. I like the way you pay attention.
Anyway, there
People
you go.
have no idea what we're talking about. I might throw in a sound bite just so you get the idea of that.
And if you do, well done. You've wasted your life.
Well done, you. Just like we have.
Absolutely. Oh, there we go. That's Matchday 2. Way better than Matchday. If you really want a good laugh, just go and dig out the original Matchday on the C64, because it is dire. Awful.
It didn't have me laughing. I was just, when you have that, when you sort of freeze, a bit like that moment in Jurassic Park when they see the dinosaurs for the first time. And that was kind of, I was looking at it, and not in a good way. So, no.
It's not a good way, no. It was really bad. Right, let's move on. Let's get out of our sheepskin coat and let's move on into our next one. Graham, you can tell us all about Send Him the Eye. The Eye.
Dare you look into the eye?
No.
This stupid thing. Why did I get this one? Why did I get this
I didn't know what it was.
stupid thing? Right, this is and it was $9.95, and I didn't actually make a note of who produced it, but does it matter, really? The packaging was amazing on it, I have to say. After doing the research, great box this. On the back of the box, though, the description's a bit vague, isn't it?
I don't know. What's it say?
It says and this is, you'll get the joke because it's EYE, but not the letter I, so just go with that.
This came from Prism, by the way. Prism, yeah. Probably, I think 2 people were in prison when they made it, but never mind. I can show you something, not just classically simple, but simply classic in my own words. There's a lot of I puns in this, so just prepare yourself. I was originally conceived at an American summer school by 3 rather eccentric characters, Kerry Kevill, an Australian teacher, Iris Lutring, a German fashion student, and Billy Barry, an Anglo-Irish ex-jockey. This sounds like the beginning of a joke, but it's really not. Oh, Billy
7
Barry.
years.
Oh.
Billy Barry, Iris Lutering, and I can't even say Kerry Kevill. I'm pretty sure there's a reason why they were out there camping with anyway.
To create I.
Anyway, 7 years and 7 months later, which was a hell of a long camping trip for all of them, I'm guessing. Bloody hell. Upon the island of Crete, in the midst of olives, watermelons, and much burning of midnight oil. I'm sensing something else is burning with that midnight oil. But I became a completed project, the perfect game. This is honest to God on the back of the box. And so it is. I needs neither cash to count, dice to roll, nor score to keep. It has none of those contemporary game requirements involving money and general knowledge.
Can I just ask, is this written by Treguard? That sounds like a
I don't know who wrote
Treguard
this
line.
nonsense. I think it could have been written by Billy Barry. Hello, Billy Barry. You
And he's
need
score
neither
to
money
keep.
nor general knowledge for this. I knows no language or culture barriers and can even be played the world over from young child to professor. I is a superior game in the truest sense, with dazzlingly beautiful and ingenious spirals that rotate fiendishly. When it comes to being original and exciting, the eyes have it.
How is rotating fiendish?
It's a fiendish rotation. So this is actually a board game, obviously. That is I'm not sure if that's the description of the board game. That's for the box, I think.
Yeah.
The board game is essentially, it's closely based on the board game of the same name. The game is played with 2 to 4 players on a board with differently coloured squares. Each player has playing stones of one colour, and the goal is to get a certain amount of their own stones on the corresponding fields. This is the board game. The spin on this concept is that the board is placed on 2 rotatable spirals, which change the square distribution on the field when used. During each turn, a player has a different amount of moves available, changing depending on the current match situation. Each move consisting of moving a square or turning a spiral. The computer version also allows some rule modifications in comparison to the original game, and all components can be replaced by the AI. Can they?
Yeah, I never found out how to do that.
No, but you know what? Because this game is impossible to figure out.
Yes.
If you look into the research I've done on this, not only is this game version of it, the Commodore 64 version, impossible to figure out, but the original board game was. There's a whole raft of people in a forum going, does anyone please, someone tell me what the hell this game is? What you're supposed to do? The only 3 people that knew how to do it was Billy, Kerry, and bloody Iris. So what is this? What is this horror, this game? This would be a complex board game, even with instructions. But the fact that it just comes up with this colour screen and these dots, so the 64 version is a really weird thing. It's a really weird thing. So it starts and you get a colour circle thing, spiral with various coloured squares. You can choose the number of players between 2 to 4. Now, I couldn't find a way of choosing 1.
There isn't.
I never succeeded at that. So, but at least I was always going to win. That's what I thought. Anyway,
did you though?
I'm not exactly sure what the challenge of this game is meant to be. I just moved the coloured dots onto the right coloured blocks and I won. It just said, well done, you've won. I'm like, I just moved the colours onto the blocks. Nothing happened. I just moved. I went bloop, 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 bloop. 5 blocks, I think there was. And I moved them. It went, way, you've won. It's like, that can't be it. Surely the spiral things have got to turn or something's got to happen. Nothing happened. That was it. I did it twice. I'm like, anyway. And I thought, well, maybe I won because the 2-player didn't do something, but when it was 2-player, I moved the red blocks to the red blobs, and it's like a little red dot that you move. Move the red one to the red ones, move the blue one to the blue ones, and the blue one said blue wins. Like, why did blue win? I don't get it. I don't get what I was supposed to do. There was no instructions that I could find. The back of the box is as I've read, and apparently this is a very difficult, vague game. It's technically, I suppose I was always going to win this. I just don't know what the original board game version was, other than the creation of some kind of toad-licking camping trip. And it kind of shows, doesn't it? If you look at this game, this is the product of people who were definitely taken a heroic dose of mushrooms. There's no doubt about that. Let's create a game where you don't have any dice, you don't have any money, you don't have any. Wow, is that sheep got horns, or what is that? Is that a space cow? These people were off their tits on mushrooms or something when they made this. It's clear. And the C64 game is a clear representation of that. It just shows you this spirally colour thing and you move dots around. There seems to be nothing more compelling than that. Apparently this is meant to be as a compelling puzzle strategy game. There's some type of Rubik thing. I'm like, what? What? Rubik's Cube is a cube that you move around and eventually you'll just throw it against the wall, because that's what happens with me with Rubik's Cube. Don't know about you.
Yeah.
This is just a load of whirly colours on a spiral thing with dots. And I don't know if they were meant to move or rotate. They didn't for me, but they may have for you. I didn't really get on with this, Aid. I didn't get on with it because I didn't know what the hell I was doing or what it was. And I couldn't find any instructions that made any sense whatsoever.
Nope.
Just in the end, I thought, I'm going to go and play Cop It. I know how to play Cop It. Just chase people around, multicoloured things. Press the little dinky thing in the middle. The dice pops over. You move around the circle. I like that. Play Frustration even. Never play this ever again. Never put this in your eye. It's actually like getting a metal splinter in your eye. It's horrific and painful and devastating. You don't want that to happen, so don't do that. Did you get on with it?
No. I tried to get my head around this, but there's nothing in it that made any sense to me. I'd never seen the game this was based on, despite it being claimed to be the greatest game ever. Or words
That's
to that effect.
Iris Billy and what's her name claim that?
Yeah, Billy Bailey or whatever his name is. What was his name? Billy what? Billy Bobby Billy,
Billy Barry.
Billy Barry.
Billy Barry, Kerry Cavill.
Not Billy Bailey, he's Bill Bailey, isn't he? The presentation's very bare bones. There's a simple board layout, some colours and the players on the right. There were some questions, weren't there, to start with? It asked you a couple of questions when the game starts, because do you want to lock the things in with this something?
Yeah.
And I was like, don't know. Do I?
No idea. Don't know. Is that relevant? Will that help?
Or not? Will it make it harder or easier?
It said how many turns before Spiral? I'm like,
yeah, it says
I don't know.
0 to 255.
I thought if 9?
I thought if I put 0, it'll just constantly spin.
I bet it didn't though.
Probably didn't. So I don't know what they were on about. It's a hard one to judge. It's without instructions to understand it as a complete loss as what to do. And having never seen the original this is based on, or played it, or heard of it, I've never even heard of this. I was just left.
It's not on Lemon 64 this either.
No, I was left with jabbing at colours and placing some other colours down in random places. Whatever it is, it didn't seem particularly enticing, and I walked away from this rather quickly. Yeah, I can only assume. I don't know. I just didn't understand what the hell this was supposed to be. I mean, I was turning stuff, I was placing stuff down, but every time I tried to put a stone down on a block, at some point, it would just go, and then another on a random one, it would go, yeah.
Yeah, mine was all, yeah. It was like, just go for it, yeah.
But other times, I'm trying to move on, it's like, I was like, what? Why is that wrong?
You'll never figure it out, and you'll never want to.
No. So,
finger in the eye. That
don't give them the eye.
no, don't give them the finger, not the eye.
Yeah, this is a weird, bad version of a bad, interesting. Someone thought this was. God knows how this managed to get through quality control and everyone without anyone going, "What is this?" This is
what happened if you camp for 7 years in Crete. This is what the result is. You come out with this kind of crazy. Then stop camping in Crete if you're going to do that, especially for that long.
Wait, your name's Billy Barry? That's what
you invented. Yes, I did. Sorry.
My eye. Take that, Billy Barry.
Ow! My eye whirls. It whirls so bad.
I've set it to 0. It'll constantly twirling with colours.
Your eyes are going to forever whirl now.
God, this was awful. Let's move on. That was I. Don't play it. Don't bother. And next up, another full price. These are all full price, $9.95, 56%. This is Bone Cruncher. We looked at the crap vote for this the other week with the crap dragon. That's not a dragon.
The Kraken.
The Kraken. Indeed. Oh, what's this all about? More BBC shenanigans turn up on the C64, courtesy of superior software in the shape of Bone Cruncher.
Why do you always get these?
I don't know. I don't even know what they're going to be until they turn up. And then suddenly I boot it up and I'm like, it's another one. But seriously, just how many ways can you deviate on the Boulder Dash Recton template and not get seriously jaded with it?
I laughed out loud when I saw it.
Thanks. Anyway, this was created by Andreas Chemnitz. It's got music by Michael Winterberg. And it's got special effects by David Hoskins. Some will say special effects.
From Hoskins Effects Limited.
Some will say special effects. And I will say, no. Anyway, we're in Repton Town again, and in this game, you play the role of the dragon Bono. We said when we looked at the crapper, this is not a dragon. Just calling something a dragon does not make it a dragon. It's a goblin, a troll at best. But dragon,
No.
Majestic winged beast that breathes fire. Nope, it's not.
No, that ain't no dragon.
It's not, no. So, as Bono, Dan is looking after you too. You make a living by selling soap with the help of your friend Fozzie. You create this soap by collecting skeletons from the 22 mazes that you must navigate. These mazes are made up of earth, which you can tunnel through. You get the picture. Skeletons, which you must collect. Keys, which open the locked doors that bar your path. Bags that convert 5 skeletons to soap. Goblins that hunt Bono down. Fozzie, who wanders around aimlessly. Glukes, which are effectively boulders, for want of a better description. Drains, which will kill you. And spiders, which will also kill you. And there are some stairs, which look like bookcases to me, which I thought they were at first, which you use to go and give the soap to the giant bathing creatures around the mazes.
Yeah, definitely.
This episode 78 has been brought to you by the letters CANNABIS.
There's bags of weed have been consumed with this bloody lot.
Glukes, man, and there's bathing giants, and you got to give them soap.
You need to give the dragon arms and legs, but no wings.
And you're a dragon, but you look like a goblin. Anyway, if all this sounds strange, because it is. Like any Boulder Dash style game, you can push the glukes if they have an empty square next to them because they're boulders, and if they fall on you, they will kill you. You have 5 lives, and if you lose them all, it's game over. But the game does have a password system allowing you to skip to the latest maze. You got to, so that's a good thing. So I've asked for them in previous games, and that is a good thing. The main game takes place in a 4-way scrolling window, taking up the top 2/3 of the screen, and the bottom third is your UI. On this, we have the number of lives, the status of Fozzie, I think, and how long he has left on the level, because he can only last a certain amount of time. If he starts the level locked up and you've got to open him up, he just goes wandering about. The number of skeletons you have collected, the number of keys you've collected, there's a directional arrow, but more on that later. And then there's your score, the level number you're on, the number of soap that are carried, and the number of skeletons required to make the soap. Yep, it sees you collecting skeletons. There are 25 on each level to collect. If you collect them all, you proceed to the next one. But the way is puzzle-filled, and this is strangely structured due to the way it uses wind, but read gravity, to change the properties of the level. So this is the interesting part of the game, and I'll give it this. If you collect 5 skeletons, there'll be some stairs, as I said, that head up. If you go up those stairs, basically you go up and press fire, then and then the stairs are facing, say they're facing to the top of the screen, so they're facing upwards to the top of the screen. What happens is you'll get an animation, it'll cut to Bono looking out of a window at a weird giant in the sea washing themselves because you've given them the soap. And that's what happens. So then once you press fire button, you go back into the maze. In the UI at the bottom, next to the directional arrow, a countdown will start. When this hits 0, the arrow will change the direction of the stairs you went up, and then all the glukes will fall in that direction, thus opening up new ways onwards or stranding you in a space if you cannot get out of if you've not got yourself ready for where the gluke's going to fall. So essentially the glukes, so if the arrow is pointing to the left, they'll go to the left until they hit something. So that way. But if the arrow is pointing down, it's like they're falling. If it's up, they'll go up. So they'll go up there. And so that's how you can kind of move them out of the way. There'll be loads of them in blocking your way, but you find the skeletons, you see the giant outside, the direction changes, they all move out of the way, and you can progress onwards. And that's how you sort of progress through this game. So this means that the game is more about you figuring out where to proceed and where to get to as the direction of the gravity is about to change. And once it does, proceeding to the next section, finding the skeletons in that section and changing the gravity again, and so on, and so on, and so on. And that's essentially what you've got to do here. The graphics are BBC-like. There's chunky scrolling, very chunky scrolling. That's whatever, that's what it is. And everything's based on a grid system. You've seen this. We've talked about these games, Realms, all this kind of stuff. The music's okay in a way that plays throughout. It doesn't annoy too much. It's not terrible. It's okay. The gameplay's pretty simple in the same way that Repton was, or any of these other games we played in this style are. But the use of gravity to affect the nature of the maze is quite an interesting angle. It's quite nice. We saw that one. What was that one we played last time? The one where you had 2 different things, and you had the different things you could move through from different angles. You were 2 shields. I can't
remember the name of it.
You were 2 shields. So these games do throw in a different sort of mechanic into each of them, and that does help them make them a little bit more interesting. So, and it leads to some tricky puzzles as you get deeper into the game. The outside image of the monsters washing is just bizarre, and I'm not sure what the relationship is between seeing these and the wind changing in the maze to alter everything, or gravity, whatever you want to call it. So I didn't quite see the connection, whether the giants are doing it or something. It's a bit bizarre. It just changed. It took me a while to figure out what exactly was going on. But once you get your head around why this is happening, what's going on, the challenge then becomes figuring out where to be in order to proceed when everything changes, and that's what you've got to do. Because if the the glutes change and they fall on you, then you lose a life, so on and so on. There's some nice ideas here. And if you've not had your fill of these style of grid-based maze games, you'll probably enjoy it. But you'll need to like these kind of games to really get anything from it, especially if, like us, it comes on the hot heels of Realms, Repton. What was it? Because it was the challenge. It was the challenge you could send away for your certificate, wasn't it? Whatever it was.
Oh, was it Zor?
Zor, that was the other one. Yeah, all these kind of things. All the others we seem to play. There's just loads of them. Still, it's a better example of these kind of games. It's because of that puzzly element and the weirdness to it. There's a slight, strangeness to it. There's a bizarreness to this. Bathing dragons and stuff and skeletons and grids and weirdness and glorps and gloops or whatever. So check it out, really, if you like it. It's still not a bloody dragon, though. I'm not having that. It's just stupid. Call it what it is. He's just a goblin. Why is he not a goblin? Feeding giving the giant stuff. I don't know. It's not terrible. It's just another one of those with a different mechanic based upon it. So there you go. That's what I thought. What about you?
Yeah, another Repton clone, isn't it?
Yes.
Falls into Adrian's lap, but graphics weird. Graphics are weird. That horrible BBC weirdness that they are bitty and scrolly is jerky and all the things I don't like. Odd combination of resolutions and colours that aren't very friendly to the eye. The speech was interesting. Weird speech in that one.
Yeah.
Did you hear the speech? It's time to play Bone Cruncher.
It's time to play Bone Cruncher.
And all that. I'll put some of the samples of that in the the soundtrack for this, so you get a flavor of what that was like. It doesn't make the game any better. I have to say, I'm baffled as to why there's so many of these bloody things appearing. I mean, Boulder Dash is out there in various formats, so that kind of set the benchmark for this, really. And that's about as good a game of this type as you're ever going to get. If you're not going to make a game as good as that, and I admit there are attempts to try and stretch the sort of vary the sort of gameplay a bit, okay, but none of them are graphically or play as well or as anything as Boulder Dash. They're just, I think when they got it right with Boulder Dash, I don't think you can do a lot with it. And they're clearly they're trying, and these attempts, I just feel sorry for the people who own BBCs because they must just have a shelf with 50 games on, and every single one is the same.
It's a maze game.
Anyway, but at full price, this is not good value, is it? For £10, it's a bit expensive.
It is, yeah. It's very expensive for what it is.
It's and even at a budget price, it would be a little bit of a stretch, really, because there's Boulder Dash stuff out there. But I suppose if you can stand it and you don't mind getting eye strain and you're not offended by the general graphics, it's just not. It's not a terrible game in any stretch of the imagination, but it's a playable puzzle if you like that kind of thing. If you can stand it and you've got £10 literally to burn, then you probably would have enjoyed it back in the day. Not for me, this one though. I'll stick to Boulder Dash, thanks.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It's just it's odd. It's odd and different and weird, but it has its heart another one of these maze games, and that's if your passion lies in those kind of maze games, you're going to get a kick out of this.
Did they make any other kind of game on the BBC other than Elite?
That's what I asked last time. Because isn't what's it face things like. What's the classic Elite game? Citadel, is it?
Citadel is a good game on the BBC, but it's not like this. That's more of a Castle Explorer type thing, isn't it? But,
yeah, I don't know.
But those are the three types of game: Castle Explorer, Boulder Dash, or Elite. All right, or text adventure, I suppose. Maybe
Jimmy, I bought you a BBC. You can have one of the three types of games.
I've got you 60 games. They're all the same.
You've got 7,000 maze levels to work your way through.
Can I have a Commodore 64? No. Enjoy your 32K goodness. Enjoy it.
It draws lines, Jimmy. It draws them fast.
Just type in some basic commands. There you go. That's fun, isn't it? That's as much fun as Outrun. It's not. Shut up.
Oh, dear. Poor old...
10 print, shut up. 20 print, shut up.
30 print, go to 10.
Yeah.
Don't print it. Don't print go to 10. It won't do anything.
The person who bought his son a BBC or daughter a BBC computer, he probably spoke to them in BASIC. 10 print, go to bed. 20, go to 10. Or he named his children BASIC commands. 20, go and talk to GoSub, will you? Get him in bed. Bloody...
Oh, JS.
God, that's we're going down niche, geek humour there.
Where's your daughter, JSR?
God, you got an assembly code. Holy Jesus.
Absolutely.
We've reached a new kind of tech joke crazy.
I've gone full on opcode madness.
Opcode humour for the win. LDX 01
BNE,
STA.
BNE, what are you doing?
You mean BEQ? No, BNE. Good jokes, then. Well done, yeah.
Absolutely.
TAX.
Yeah.
TAX, mate. TAX.
I went down a storm at Edinburgh at the Fringe, I tell you.
He did all the coders were like, I tried typing it in. He's talking in typing.
They were registering their humour in lols.
Yeah, NOPs. Nop. I don't like it. Nop, 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 nop. We've got to stop this right now. These jokes are getting so obscure. People are going, what the hell are they talking about? Yeah, they took it machine code humour. That's beyond niche. That is like 8-bit machine code jokes. Wow.
It's what our listeners like. We know our audience. They'll be sat at home now laughing to themselves.
SYS 63276. Enter. That's it. I've just reset us.
All right. Okay. Let's move on.
Bizarre.
Und extreme. Right. Let's move on. And Graham, take us on an outrun.
Outrun. Do you know what? This is a massive thing in it, Outrun. Wow. When I did some of the research, now I've always liked Outrun. In fact, I'll tell you this right now. Outrun is one of my favourite arcade games of all time.
It's a great arcade game.
All time. The arcade game is amazing. So this C64 version was developed by amazing products. That is the coding and graphics team of Martin and Dennis Webb. The musician was Jason Seabrook. This was US Gold.
It was.
At the C64 helm. Before I dive into the C64, let's just take a little cast an eye at the arcade. It was obviously the great, amazing sort of... Now, it's not a racing game. And I think it's very important to say that because this was always classed as a driving game. In fact, Yu Suzuki, who designed and invented this particular game, made a point of saying that it is not a racing game. This is a driving game. And it is. You're not racing anybody. You're just driving to an end point. Just you've got to do it in the fastest time possible and against the clock. So I think that there can't be many people on the planet that don't really know what Outrun is, but... A very brief description. You are the driver of a Ferrari Testarossa. You are going on a series of routes down a long road, navigating your car along a track. You're against the clock, like a countdown clock, so you've got to try and reach the checkpoint. I think what's the official name for these checkpoint type games? But there's an official name for them. But you've got to get to the checkpoint before your timer runs out. When you get to the checkpoint, you get a little time boost, and you can work it that way. If you happen to hit other vehicles or fly off the track or lose control of the vehicle, you're going to lose time. If you lose too much time, you're not going to make it to the checkpoint. End of game. At various stages throughout the route, you can actually choose a sort of different route in the arcade. You can choose different routes, and that sort of navigates you through, I think, the 5 or 6 stages in the arcade, maybe. But either way, it navigates you through to the end stage. 5 stages. You get to the end of the 5th stage, and then you've finished the race. You get a good time, and you're the hero. And that's kind of the notion of Outrun. It was never racing against lots of cars. There are vehicles in your way, and you've just got to kind of get to the end and not run out of time, which is very cool. Now, the Outrun arcade was known for its crazy, crazy hardware. In fact, it was a very expensive arcade. It's a combination of the brains of Yu Suzuki. Yu Suzuki, of course, we've spoken about many times, but this is the guy that brought us Hang On, was it? And a few others and some, Space Harrier. Incredibly talented designer. It apparently took 10 months to design and build Outrun and did most of that work himself.
Wow.
So very talented guy. And the music, of course, for this, which is arguably the other most famous thing about Outrun, is by Hiroshi Kawaguchi. And of course, the cabinet itself, if you ever in the UK and you get to the arcade club in Leeds, and I think there's even one at the arcade club in Manchester, there is a deluxe arcade cabinet which features hydraulics when you turn the vehicle, force feedback on the steering wheel. These are incredible inventions at the time. And obviously, it's got the super scalar mega Sega engine that powered all of the graphics, which is essentially loads of ramped up 68,000 processors, loads of sound chips thrown in. It was a very expensive piece of hardware, and also was one of the first arcades where they were told in the arcades that got these games to increase the price per player because they were so expensive.
Yep.
So to make your money back, you're going to have to, pump pound coins or whatever it was into this, which is one of the reasons I have a love-hate relationship with it, the arcade, because I love it to play it. And recently playing it when it was free, it was amazing. But back in the day, it was a frustrating experience because it was so hard. It's quite new, quite inventive, but also expensive. And those aren't good combinations for someone that's crap at driving when they're a young person. Anyway, so I won't wax too lyrical about the arcade. We've all seen the Outrun arcade. It was just basically a successor to their Hang On hardware. Used, as I said, to super scalar stuff, tons of processors and graphics hardware and all that stuff. Loads of complicated stuff. I'll put the link in the show notes. There's an entire page dedicated to the Sega Outrun hardware. Go fill your boots with that. If reading about that kind of tech stuff gets you all fizzy and poppy, go and do that. What we need to know is that this was the highest grossing arcade game of 1987, as well as Sega's most successful arcade cabinet of the 1980s. And of course, we know that it was ported to lots and lots of home computers, consoles, loads and loads of things. This is a big, big deal. And is considered one of the most influential games of all time. But it's considered one of the most influential games of its type of all time, which is kind of incredible, isn't it? Apparently it's influenced so many games and video games and stuff like that and all sorts of stuff. It's even influenced popular music and popular stuff, and it's a very, very big deal. Right, big deal. So obviously you're controlling that Ferrari Testarossa, and in the arcade you've got a steering wheel. You don't have the luxury of those things, giant 25-inch screens and all of that when you've got the Commodore 64 version. But what do you get? Now, I love Outrun in the arcade. I do. It is, like I said, one of my very favourite arcade games. And the music is in my top arcade music of all time list. I mean, it is that high. All of the arcade themes. I love them. I've even got them on my iPhone on Spotify under the Sega albums they released. I listen to them very regularly because I love it. I think it's a brilliant thing, and I still do. In fact, I really wanted this to be better than it was back in the day. I don't know if you remember the furore and excitement of the Outrun was coming to the home versions. Mm-hmm. It was a really big deal. I really wanted it to be good because, one, I loved Outrun in the arcade, and two, as I said before, the arcade was expensive and quite difficult, so this was a chance to play it at home. Now, the first thing to state here is that this game does have that interesting creation story. The father and son duo, Martin and Dennis Webb, that created this C64 game certainly had the opportunity of a lifetime at their fingertips, but from what I have read, they ended up having quite the strained relationship, which was, I think this was the tip of the spear, maybe. I think between them, what they've done, they did what they could do in terms of the C64 version, because obviously there's going to be, to take on a massive, uncompromising hardware behemoth like Outrun, you got to be pretty brave and you got to be pretty sure of yourself. And reading through the various accounts online of how this game came to be, how much pressure this must have placed on their relationship as father and son. And in spite of, at the time, really healthy royalty payments, I think there is little wonder that this game turned out in the way that it presents itself. So, if the information abound on the internet is correct, and there's no reason to suggest that it's not, given that Martin Webb has contributed to many of the accounts of this over time, and including an article I'll link in the show notes, this was a complex, uncompromising home version license conversion, an IP that cost US gold £250,000 for the home rights version. So a lot of money, especially back then.
Yep.
The license conversion project was then given to the bright and talented 17-year-old game programmer and his dad, who had previously worked on a demo of a car racing game that they'd based on their game for the C64, Max Talk. You know, I don't remember us liking Max Talk that much.
We didn't like it very much.
So according to the article, the boy behind the biggest coin-op conversion of the 80s, Outrunning on Empty, which was written by Martin Carroll for Eurogamer, they were given an upfront payment of £20,000 and a very short time frame between March and April, from what I can gather, to November 1987 to get the game programmed, packaged, and ready to ship for Christmas. That's the time frame to convert an arcade like Outrun into the C64. Now, they were also given no instructions, no footage, or nothing. At a certain point of just this game's creation, they had to literally master every track on that arcade game themselves between Martin and Dennis. And they recorded it on a Super 8. And then that's what led them to be able to design the tracks that they did. How bonkers is all of that?
It's not good.
Now, the article, I won't go into it, but the article details a whole bunch of pressure and problems with the loader and the packaging. And there's all sorts of issues that befell this game. And it was a miracle, and only really the testament of Martin that it actually got completed in time, because he was burning the midnight oil. In fact, I think it pretty much burnt him out totally at that point. I don't know how many more games came after this with them both, but either way, it was causing all sorts of problems for them, I think, later down the line. And it's a tall order, isn't it? A lot of pressure. Anyway, I'm not going to go and say any more about that particular relationship, but it's suffice to say, it put a lot of strain on them, and we got the version that we got. There's two versions of this as well. There's the EU version, which is the EU UK version, I suppose. EU version, European version?
European, yeah.
And the US version. The US version is actually better, strangely, in some ways, than the EU version. How weird is that? Just principally the same, but it's slightly...
We had the same thing with Space Harrier, though, didn't we?
We did indeed. Game is essentially the same as the arcade, with the applied constraints of having 64K and an 8-bit home computer. So the question really becomes, because it's not comparable to the arcade, if you ask me, how good a racing game is this on the C64, and what, if any, elements of Outrun actually remain in? So what is actually comparable, really? What do you get for your £10? The EU version does not have the route selector map screen, which is kind of an important screen in the arcade, and it's also how it shows you how far you've got in the arcade, but that's not in this at all, in the Euro version. Instead, you have to select one of the 5 routes from a really boring list. The list describes them as Vineyard, Death Valley, Desolation Hill, Autobahn, and Lakeside. Now, I'm thinking with names like Death Valley and Desolation Hill, you might be feeling a bit down. Is that the actual names, or is that something that Martin was like?
I'm not sure.
I'm calling this level Death Valley then, Dad. Anyway, I don't know. You select one of those, and then it loads that route in as a separate load. Each of these routes is split into 5 sections, a la the arcade, with a timer counting down as you hurl around the track, trying to hit checkpoints. There's cars, skidding, roadside furniture, all hinder your time-wise, as I said. If you get through each stage, you get to the end and your time will dictate your scoreboard. You control your car with the joystick. Up is accelerate, down is decelerate, and left and right is obviously steer, with the fire button switching between gears 1 and 2. Pretty sure Ferraris have more than 2 gears, but okay. So it's technically low and high. The track will bend and swish about. You need to try and steer around the roads, avoiding the cars and making sure you don't fly off the track, all of which costs you precious time, as I've said. The main window of the game is the play area, and I think that's admittedly quite large for a game of this type, really. At the top of the screen is your countdown timer, score, and lap timer. At the bottom left, your current speed in kph. And on the bottom right, your current stage. This had no save feature in this version. So even if you could save your scores, once you switch the God 64 off, say goodbye to them. That's a bit disappointing, that, even on the disc version. I don't know, was this released on disc in the UK? I don't think it was.
No, yeah, it was, yeah. No, it was 12 quid on,
I thought it was on the tape
disc,
only.
£10. That's because the version we played is the disc version, because on the tape version, each one is loaded separately. You don't have that menu choice.
No, and I think with the disc version on the tape version, you actually got a recording of the arcade music on a separate audio cassette as well.
Possibly, yeah.
Part of the packaging. Graphics-wise, we're compromising fidelity for speed. I'm being kind when I say fidelity for speed in this game. Your carriage, very large but blocky. And I suppose it is a rendition of the Ferrari Spider. It does kind of look like it. With your girlfriend in the C64 version inexplicably having dark hair. It's blonde hair in the arcade and in the US version of the game. Also, the rear of the Spider looks blockier and wider than the actual Spider does, and the C64 US version and arcade versions do. So I'm not sure why, but I think it's so that the guy who did the graphics, which is Dennis Webb, his dad, you could put DW on the number plate on the back. I think that's the sole reason why that's there, I think.
Oh, right, yeah, I guess.
If you do crash, you'll be either treated to a stark warning from your girlfriend with a shake of her angry fist, or your car will spin over and crash. These moments are there in the C64, rendered in the way that only a C64 can render such things. Blocky, and such is the way I'd describe them. No, I suppose they occur fast and mercilessly. You don't see a lot of it. The usual raster bar effects gives the illusion of car speed, with no wheel motion on the vehicle. You just appear to float, which is really disappointing because that's easy to do. See Pit Stop 2. Yeah,
you've only got to wobble a line. You've only got to move a line like that.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Move it up and down. You get a bit. It's the illusion of speed.
So you float around, and the hills and valleys are here, kinda, though they're more of a workaround with some raster effects, sort of moving the things up and down. So it's not quite the same as the hills that are in the arcade, but okay, they tried. There's backgrounds in the distance. I think it's just a cloud. It's very simple.
It's cloud or yellow
clouds.
or colour.
So it's very simplistic. The US version has a slight variation of that. Then there is an occasion where there was a mountain, and there was even a little shade of parallax scrolling at one point, which I noticed, which is odd. The items at the side of the road are blocky and horrible. There's no other way to describe them. But clearly they're there to act as a sort of a speedy zooming item. So again, the trade-off was fidelity, no speed. What can you possibly see at that kind of speed? Well, horrible blocky things, really, if you do it like that. I do get why they did it, because at the end of the day, the only thing you can really hope to achieve here is a speedy experience if you're going to try anything like this. And so you've got to make sure everything runs at least as fast, because the arcade was famous for its speed and it had the power to do it. So you've got to trade off. You can't expect to match that in a C64. Everything else is pretty much impossible, really, isn't it? So as much as Outrun is famous for the hydraulic cabinet and all the arcade fire that it presented, the music is equally as important. Maybe even more so, actually, if then that's all that's left. The C64 does at least have an amazing sound chip, so maybe there's a way of leveraging that. You only get 2 of the selectable arcade pieces of in-game music in the C64 port. That is the magical sound shower and splash wave. And the versions aren't terrible. They do have the right notes, just about. But there's no match for the arcade power here. And they don't really add much to this anyway. The notion of the musical selector screen is quite nice. Apparently that's something US Gold insisted must be in the game, and the first thing that Martin Webb coded. And you can choose the sound effects. I quite like that, but the sound effects are horrible. Really crap for both versions, whether it's US or the Euro version. But you'd be better off listening to the music. And the music isn't that bad. The US version has better loading screens. The map route screen is present. It runs faster. The car looks more like a Ferrari Spider. They're all good things. That's a good thing. Same people did it, which is strange. The exact same. I think they just flew him off somewhere else to do it, but he still did it in 2 weeks. Bizarre. Unt extreme. The music is the same. Most of the wider graphics are the same. Awful blocky cars, trees, crowds. Those crowds. Those queues. Just queues of yellow, blocky head people just queuing by the side of a road. Just queues of people, just queuing. Weird. Don't have them. Don't put them in. I think, something that would have worked better and does when it's applied is just have simple roadside details like bushes and bridges. Now, I know they're not perfect. I know that. But a bush is a bush is a bush. If you put people there, or God forbid those awful blocky house things.
Oh.
They just look stupid.
Those houses.
Don't put them in. You're better off just having trees and bushes and things that you can do. And those things are doable. And if you're driving at speed, who really notices the shape of a tree? You can kind of get away with it a little bit. But anyway, so the houses, the palm trees, the crowds in long lines, they don't look great. But the bushes and the sort of bridge things, the tunnel things, you're going, okay, they're more passable than anything else. But it still ain't great. I think as a product of a 17-year-old and his dad over a few months, this is actually pretty much what you'd expect it to be. If you looked at, someone said, these are the parameters of a game's creation, what do you think it turned out like? You'd say, what was the, and then you showed them Outrun and said they had to fit that into that. And you should put the arcade cabinet with all of its hydraulics next to a Commodore 64 bread bin. And they're going to go, they got that into that?
Yeah.
That is it's an impressive feat for a 17-year-old. Hats off to Martin Webb and Dennis as well for doing what they were doing, because they were being heavily exploited by US Gold at this point, without a doubt. Courted, shown a bit of cash, threw cash at them, wowed them with, the brouhaha, and gave them a impossibly difficult license and a challenge for somebody that it's not a good thing to do that to people. Anyway, I never actually hated the C64 version of Outrun outright. I just remember my heart sinking when I first loaded it up back in the day. I remember really being excited and then seeing it going, yeah. And it suddenly reminded me that I've got a Commodore 64, not a 68,000 powered mega machine.
Yeah.
But the villains of this piece really are US Gold, if anyone, because this is just, should this license really have been made? I mean, they made a lot of money off this. This was a huge success across all these different platforms. They made tons of money off it. I know Martin and Dennis were equally compensated at some point. I think they got about 85, 90,000 pounds at one point, and that's a lot of money back then. It's a lot of money back then. It's a lot of money now, but it's certainly back then. It's a lot for this. But this is Outrun with its heart ripped out in many ways, isn't it? What else could you really expect? I suppose is my question. What possible avenue other than money would be the motivation for creating this as a home version and then exploiting two people to make it? And I think that's the tragedy of this, is that the cost of this game was the relationship potentially between two people, of two family members. Mm-hmm. And if you read the article, I mean, I think there is a lot of self-analysis in there, and Martin Webb is very candid and honest about how he felt about certain things. I think he lives in Brazil now. I'm not sure he has anything to do with games. I think he runs his own company, IT company anyway. So that's my thought on Outrun. I like the arcade. The C64 version is exactly as you would expect it to be, because if you've learned anything from this podcast and learned anything from the arcade conversions of this type, you cannot fit that kind of arcade into a C64. What you get is exactly what you get if you try that with a 17-year-old and his dad. But we'll discover strangely later, with more time and effort and less pressure to try and cram it out for Christmas, you start to see what the C64 could have done. Check out Turbo Outrun, which was complete by Probe in 1989, and later Outrun Europa, which was another one by Probe in 1991. Both of those have got a much bigger ante on the graphics and the sound, and everything of the ante is up. They're much better than this. So at least this is a starting point. It proved in some ways that it was possible. And there is an Outrun game in there somewhere, isn't there? The saddest thing of all is that it's just, I still feel the pain of loading it up that day and going, and my heart's sinking when I saw it going, oh, yeah. Why did I think that it would be anything like the arcade? What about you?
Yeah, it's an admirable attempt to fit another massive Sega arcade game in 64K and an 8-bit computer, exactly what you said. For me, though, the fact there are no intersections is frustrating. It just leaves you with 5 predestined tracks, and that, for me, it just renders this, it's not Outrun. It's not Outrun.
Yeah. It's
Outrun
bits, really.
is the intersections. It's the choices you make as you go along. There are 15 sections in all in the arcade games. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as you go through them, and then the way you can traverse and go through each of them and gives you a different game all the time, and that's the beauty of Outrun. That's one of the joys of it. Don't have it. It is. So it's just the music's okay, as you said. The versions of Splash Wave and Magical Sound Shower, they're good renditions. They're all right. They're recognizable. Just not Outrun. And I don't think they could, as you rightly said, and I think you're right. They don't think they could have done any more with it. Everything is sort of there. The speed, the track is good, but the blocky and twitchy sprite scaling on the cars is horrible. The Toy Town houses in the first level, along with pretty bad traffic on the road, jitters about all over the place, just makes this. It's Outrun in name and music only for me. Couple that with the fact that you must reload the whole thing to try the different courses, and it's just a painful experience overall. As you've noted, interesting additions to the US version that obviously had a bit more time allotted to it, even if it was just a couple of weeks, but still the same issues plaguing it, even if it does have the course image instead of just text on the PAL version. We said it about Space Harrier, and we've said it about loads of others. This machine is creaking at the seams trying to do justice to these arcade behemoths, and no one comes out of it looking good. For me, this is Noutrun, as they would say in Yorkshire, and I were right about that saddle.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
You've been attacked by spiders too.
I got attacked by a fly.
A fly. Yes. It's Noutrun. It's Noutrun.
Yeah. Noutrun. Yes, it is. I just think
It's
that
what you're going to get. It's exactly what you said.
Yeah,
it's what
yeah,
you were going to get.
It is what it is.
Did you expect by trying to cram this in?
Yeah.
At this stage, and and by getting a 17-year-old to do it's like had they seen Max talk? It wasn't that great.
Well, apparently he put together a demo and went to see US Gold with his demo that he'd created like a demo of a version of Outrun that he'd done himself based on the Max Torque engine, but he'd replaced the car with a Porsche and put a dashboard and showed them that, and he just blew them away with it. So they're like, right, I've got an idea. They apparently, if you read the article, took him off to a room and said, you know what, we've just got this big license game. They didn't, Martin and Dennis didn't know anything about it. They just took him into this room and said, we've got this big license. It's Outrun. Do you want it? So, I mean, who wouldn't? If you're a 17-year-old, you'd be like, hell yeah, give me that. Give me it.
You would.
Give me kind of thing. But I think that's probably a decision you'd come later to regret when they were like, where's our bloody game? Where's Outrun? You're like, well,
as they
got a slight problem.
Stood there with a big wrench at your knee.
Well, they've got no manual or no guidance or anything from Sega whatsoever.
Well, it's just crazy. I mean, but that was the nature of arcade conversions back then, wasn't it? It was just like, you bought it. Here's the arcade.
Yeah. Here's the arcade. Play it. And then the only solace I found through looking at there's a video I've got, which is a little brief history of Outrun, which is actually quite a fun video because it features all the various different conversions of pretty much every platform. The only solace I found was that there are worse conversions than the C64.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
Of the 8-bit platforms, the C64 is probably the best.
Really?
Probably maybe pipped by the Master System a little, but which you probably would expect given that it's Sega. But if you really want, an eyeball horror, go and check out the Amstrad version, and you'll find no happiness there. You won't.
Okay, I'll have a look at that later.
Just check it out. Well, I'll put that video in the show notes also, so everyone else can watch that and go, goodness me.
Apart from Amstrad owners who are going, no, wrong with it. It's colourful. It's more colourful than the browns of the C64.
The rod up that man's butt's got a rod up its butt.
Indeed. Oh, there we go. Outrun. What did you expect? Stop it.
Magical sound golden shower.
Yes. Well, I was thinking that, innit? It's like Splash Wave and Magical Sound Shower. It's Yu Suzuki trying to tell us
breeze is a good name for a fart, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And then
it's a classic name.
I think the later one in Outrun 2, there's Risky Ride.
There is a Risky Ride, but I always like the idea of just naming your farts after a passing breeze.
What's that? Just a passing breeze.
It's just a passing breeze. Pay it no mind.
What was that? Splash Wave.
Ew. It's that Magical Sound Shower. You gads.
There's nothing magical about that. Not even Hans Moretti would like that.
I'm off on a risky ride.
Absolutely. I just had one. Right, there we go. That's the first 4 games that ran long as ever. But there you go. We started off well, football, and then ended on a risky ride with a passing breeze. Oh dear. Right, anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and then we shall be back where we'll be looking at TV for February 1988. So stay with us.
Cornish pasties filled to their bursting seams and some lovely smooth gravy for our show sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com, where you will find a whole bunch of brilliant audiobooks, bargain books, ebooks, and more. I can tell you, David once threw a toy frisbee into space for a laugh. That's just how he rolls. And is an amazing writer too. Check out this excerpt from his brilliant audiobook, Escape from the Commodore 64, which is available right now.
She felt her energy levels go up as she approached another door and kicked it down, just like Joan Jett would have. Instinct told her to back away. It was then that the bird she had seen on the warlord's shoulder flew at her and attacked. Torn after the experience with the bull, where she hadn't wanted to fight, she did nothing to defend herself as the bird struck her and flew away. The dreaded virtual bird came in again and once more struck Sarah, who again did nothing to defend herself. She winced in pain, looking at blood seeping from her forearm, where a claw had cut her.
Whoa, how good was that? I'll be having me some of that tasty audio goodness, I can tell you that. To get your own copy of that and all the other works from David, visit DavidHearnWriter.com. That's David, Hearne, writer.com. Now, go, go, go!
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
And we're back. We're back to discuss TV highlights in the cold, cold month of February 1988. We were all stuck inside. It was probably snowing. It was February in the UK when we had proper snow. and everything, and not
when
this
we had winter, yeah.
when we had winter, yeah. And we're all excited.
We're winter.
So what are we watching? What are we watching? Well, on the 1st of February, TVAM celebrated its first birthday with Ann Diamond being joined by Richard Keys, Giles Brandreth, Sue Pollard, and Jimmy Greaves.
God,
It's
what
the
a
first time TVAM has
collection.
been able to get its daily output down to an hour of pre-recorded material since the beginning of the strike. However, the station continues to air imports of old US shows for several months. There you go.
Did indeed, yeah. Now, I did a little bit of research to find out what those TV shows were because I couldn't remember what they were. Apparently, it was repeatedly old episodes of Batman, Flipper, and Happy Days. So, and according to
Awesome.
Morning Glory, A History of British Breakfast Television by Ian Jones, it was a catastrophe, this whole thing. Bruce Gingell, is that Gingell? Bruce Gingell, I think. The managing director of TVAM at the time decided he would try and do literally everything himself as he had no technical production or support staff at all. None. They were on strike.
None.
So he attempted to manage the whole broadcasting operation single-handedly, enlisting anyone left in the building, including tea ladies, teenagers on work experience and cleaners, to assist him. The end result was shows being shown in the wrong order, or repeatedly, or in some instances, a famous example was Flipper, shown completely backwards.
Awesome.
The timings were all over the shop, so often episodes would start in the middle as opposed to at the beginning, so there was panic-stricken rewinding of the tapes and things during advert breaks and then quickly pressing the play button again. So sometimes they'd show the first half of the TV show twice. Part 2 of episodes were often shown before the part 1. Dogs and cats were living together. It was chaos. But I bet it was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I bet that was good. Yeah.
I'd love to watch Flipper backwards and go, did anyone notice? That was the question.
Probably
How many people
not.
didn't? That dolphin is very clever. He can swim completely backwards. Wow.
That bullet just went back in that gun.
So that was. I remember him being on strike, and I don't remember switching. I didn't watch a lot of TVAM, I guess, really. So
Nah,
but I do
BBC
remember
through and
seeing.
through.
I remember seeing Happy Days, but I'm thinking it was a bit odd. But I don't remember much of it.
Well,
so.
the strike was continuing because the deadline, this was the 1st February, on which the ACT, ACTT, don't know what that is, it's the union, must accept
Union, I
TVAM's 10-point plan, which was aimed at resolving the strike. However, the plan was rejected by a ballot and the union refused to resume negotiations, hence the chaos that ensued.
Exactly, and they said because they came back with the feedback, we need a plan that goes to 11. No, it's the end of that.
And an 11-point plan. Indeed. None of this 10-point. We mock your 10-point plan. No.
We laugh at your 10 points. We clearly need 11 or maybe even 12, but 11 will do. The Klingons are in.
Well, he's getting anyone he can. He's getting anyone he can
We're
to
desperate.
to do the show.
I laugh. You laugh like a pathetic tiggler.
Would you accept this 10 points? Only one way to find out.
You played it backwards, Klecklock, you stupid idiot.
That's not my name. It's Colin. You're saying my name backwards. Nollick. Nillock.
Nylock.
It's not Nylock, it's Colin.
It's Colin. Are you a Klingon or not? No, none of us are. Take your Klingon glasses off, you loopy idiot.
Absolutely. Those
Bloody
stupid
hell.
ridges.
Yeah. Cornish
Hang on.
pasty head.
Indeed. 5th of February, the inaugural Red Nose Day. 5th
Ah.
February 1988, the inaugural Red Nose Day saw Comic Relief air its first A Night of Comic Relief fundraiser on BBC
incredible,
One.
really.
Do you remember any of this? Do you remember any of it?
No, it's funny. I remember it occurring earlier, but I'm conflating loads of different things together because I thought that this whole thing started earlier than the 5th of February 1988. But there was Children in Need, wasn't there? So I wonder if I'm getting Children in Need conflated with Red Nose Day, and I don't know if they're all part of the same thing or I don't know. But it raised £15 million, attracted 30 million television users, and over 150 celebrities and comedians participated. It's pretty incredible, that.
It's good. I remember. No, it wasn't this. It wasn't this Red Nose Day. It must have been either the one after or the third one. When I was in the sixth form, and the reason I remember it is because I tried to do something to raise money for Comic Relief.
Oh, what did you do?
I said I was going to eat 10 tins of baked beans.
Right? Did you?
No, I got through about 4.
Is that all?
Have you ever tried to eat tins of baked beans? It gets very.
Once.
It gets very.
Beanie.
It gets very stodgy.
There's a lot of bean, that.
And then later on that day, I had the worst farts I've ever had.
I wonder why.
It was just horrific. I was in pain. They were so sharp and so harsh. There was
beanie.
There was so much pulses running through my system.
But there's
Or
an entire
legumes or
joke
whatever they
strand
are.
of you being full of beans, really. isn't there?
I was
There is.
very full of beans. My house was full of beans. My room was full of beans. There was people down the road coming down and complaining about the noise. It was horrific.
Oh dear. That's funny. You know, the only thing I remember vaguely about that first comic relief was that I think the young ones did sang with, they might have sang Living Doll, I think, with Cliff Richard or something.
Is that
like
where
that
Living? Maybe, I don't know.
I think that might be where they did it on
might
stage.
be.
I seem to remember something
Could
like
have
that.
been.
Anyway. That's the only thing I remember. And the other thing I remember was this vague smell of burnt beans in the air around that time.
Absolutely, hanging like a miasma over our,
Yeah.
over our home
Well, it's
estate.
just the whole of the sky went orange for weeks.
Absolutely, and there was the clouds were marked with the word Heinz.
Exactly. There was old people carrying under their tables in there because they thought it was the bloody nuclear blast.
Absolutely, it was like a
When the
real
wind
blue light
blows.
version of When the Wind Blows.
It's like when the arse blows.
It's like, absolutely. There were plenty of passing breezes that night, I can tell you. Lots of snores, scrubs, and gruels knew what it was like to be roasted in the fires of hell that night.
Yeah, Zool. Massive zooling of the sky.
Absolutely. Huge zooling.
Oh dear. That's a lot of bean. That is a lot of baked bean material.
Oof, it was awful.
I can't eat beans.
Absolutely. It was terrible. 13th of February, Scottish and Grenada begin 24-hour broadcasting. Central, which had been keeping its transmitters on the air since last April, by filling its closed-down period with its Job Finder service. They launch a full overnight schedule. Job Finder also launched on both Grenada and Scottish, and all three companies broadcast Job Finder for 1 hour, beginning at 4 a.m. Who is looking for a job at 4 a.m.?
People who really want to work.
Yeah, I guess.
Or have got insomnia. I don't know.
Yeah.
I decided to, because obviously we've spoken about the night network thing, won't we? Apparently there was night network, and then it got changed to More Central at some point.
Ooh.
And also, I think Night Shift as well. Anyway, I decided to put together my own night network schedule of TV programs.
Okay, go on then.
Now, I didn't do the full schedule from 11 till 5, but I've got 11 o'clock, this is PM, obviously, 11 PM to 11:30, you've got Dom's Dominoes, which is consumer rights champion Dominic Littlewood brings us the latest news from the exciting world of regional dominoes. Highlights this week are the Doncaster Dominators' impressive defeat of the Kroll Cannonballs. 11:30 to 12:30, Splash TV. That's an anarchic TV game show where celebrities are thrown from a helicopter into a swimming pool as they attempt to collect balloons and answer questions. That's hosted by Jeremy Beadle. 12:30 to 1 a.m, Punch and Judy. Frank Bruno and Judy Finnegan interview celebrity guests and ask difficult questions. If they don't like the answer, Frank Bruno punches their faces inwards.
What if they do like the answer? What does Judy do?
You don't want to know. And then this is as far as I got.
Late night.
1 a.m. to 1:40 was Dutch cop show, Driller and Bit. And that's the translation. It's a grimy Dutch cop show with Gus van der Kamp and Friete Vliederburden as cops, Driller and Bit, who work for the Department of Klogensnap, solving shoe crimes. That's as far as I got.
A lot of clog-based crimery.
And no offence to anybody who's Dutch and who wears clogs. Yeah,
No, we like clogs.
Yeah, we
Especially
like
on
that.
mice. I want to see the rest of that scheduling though. I'd watch that. Sounds better than that crap on TVAM. At least you know what's on at 4 a.m. It's Job Finder.
I'll put the schedule in the show notes, of course.
Of course. 13th to the 28th of February, we had the 1988 Winter Olympics. That was the 1988 Winter Olympiad, to those who remember the other month, held in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and it's broadcast to television audiences around the world. In the UK, the BBC provides around 5 hours of live and recorded coverage each day.
It's quite a lot, that.
It's quite a lot.
It's quite a lot. I remember before I noted that, I remember watching loads of this, and now I realise why.
Because there was nothing else to watch.
They weren't showing anything else.
It was that a Job Finder.
So there's loads of interesting, quirky bits about that Winter Olympics. I'll put the wiki link because there's loads of interesting stuff in there if you like that kind of thing. The one thing I noted was that this was the one where the Jamaican bobsleigh team made their nation's first their Winter Olympic debut. So
Okay. Led to the film Cool Runnings, didn't it?
it did, yeah, exactly that, yeah. So this is the one where that's based around. So there you go.
Nice. Yeah, so yeah, Winter Olympics. 16th February, TVAM Managing Director Bruce Gingell sacks the station's locked-out staff and calls a meeting of its remaining employees
The
the following
Klingons.
morning. Who's left? To announce that the Act, ACTT, will never again organise itself at TVAM studios. His decision fails to resolve the crisis, however, as picketing continues and the quality of its output remains unchanged. It's not going well, is it?
No, it's not. He's not doing so well, is he, old Bruce Gingell?
No, he must have been tearing his hair out at this point.
Yeah,
It's literally...
It sounds like a very angry man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, imagine if you put it on backwards, you stupid idiot. You're fired, you are. There's only me left.
I just make the tea.
I don't even work here. I'm the window cleaner. Just fell in because the window was left open, you bloody idiot.
Because we got to lock up last night.
Well, I'm sacking you anyway.
Oi, Nylock, in here.
6 quatloos to beat him up. Go on, off you go.
Just in February, sometime in February, Channel 4 started broadcasting into the early hours, closing down between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. Previously, Channel 4 had closed down at just after midnight. Missing that lucrative 4 a.m. job finder slot, I feel. So they kept going a bit longer.
I remember them showing lots of weird sports. I remember baseball being in there, international mini golf, table football, badminton rounders, and Tiggy on lines, which was a bit weird.
That was a bit weird.
You remember any of that?
Weren't they the channel that broadcast the first Super Bowl?
Yeah, that was the slot where they put in all the American football. There was one company that did all of those kind of sports.
Yeah, because I remember that being very late on a Sunday night. Because I remember being very tired for school the next morning.
It was indeed, and that was where my love of American football kind of began, because I started to watch those shows on quite a regular basis.
There you go. New shows this month. 10th of February, Moondial.
It's looked pretty interesting, actually. Did you think it looked pretty? It looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you watch the trailer that I linked up to?
Yeah. So I say, I thought it looks. I mean, it looks of its time, but I thought I'd heard of it, and I think we've come across it before for some reason. But I'm going to check it out, try and find it, check it out, because it does look pretty good.
Well, my partner said that they remembered it, and I said, "Can you describe it?" And they did. She described it perfectly. I was like,
"It must be pretty good then."
So she remembers it. So it's the story of a young girl, Minty, who's staying with her aunt after her mother is injured in a car accident. She spent much of her time wandering around the grounds of a nearby mansion, and she's drawn to a moondial that enables her to travel back in time, where she becomes involved with 2 children, Tom, who lives in the Victorian era, and Sarah, who seems to live in the previous century to that and must save them from their own unhappy lives.
That's pretty good, that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I did watch the trailer. It's looks very odd, but strange. More importantly, I think, though, 15th February, Red Dwarf starts.
Yeah, Red Dwarf. That is an amazing show.
It's an amazing... Yeah, it really is. The first 6 seasons of Red Dwarf are just ace.
Yep.
The only dip in that list, 3's not as good as the rest, but seasons 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, they're all brilliant. Not so much these days, and after 7 it went a bit downhill. But those first 6 series, astonishing, and they got me through so much of my university. I used to watch it. Someone had them all at university on video, and I just nicked them all of them and just kept watching them because
they're really good. Some ace episodes. I remember the Polymorph episode particularly is brilliant. So
yeah, Polymorph. There's too many good episodes. I mean, Better Than Life. They were doing what they were also doing as well. If you watch a lot of Red Dwarf, you see a lot of it repeated, or a lot of the ideas seem to turn up in later episodes of Next Generation, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Voyager.
With Voyager, I mean, goodness me, they've got a holographic character in Voyager, for goodness sake.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot. This had a big influence, I think, on a lot of other things. Have you ever watched the US remake pilot?
No, I haven't. I don't tend to watch the US pilot remakes.
Lister's a Buffy hero, Buff.
No, that doesn't work.
It doesn't. It's got to be
scabby Lister.
It's a space bum. That was the whole. The last human being is a space bum, and obviously if watching the documentaries, which were on when they released them on DVDs, it's really sort of interesting that they cast a black guy as the lead, as the last human in space. So that was quite a brave thing. And they nearly never got made. They had such a hard time getting this made because I think we've mentioned before that TV sci-fi was, BBC was just not liked. Was it Grade? It was said about Grade. Who didn't like it and stuff like that. So it was really not liked, and they had to keep going and trying to get this on. And eventually they did, and it just picked up an audience, and they managed to get a season 2, and it just cannonballed out from there and came back on, didn't it? It came back a few years back on Dave and stuff. And I think it's still going, I think.
Yeah, there's good writing and good cast for this. And as we've said with many times with the UK TV shows, when you get that balance right, we've got this formidable things happen. They always are.
Yeah, and also as well, the books are really good as well. So the books are by Yeah, they're really good. They're based. They go more in depth on, because obviously they do a lot more than what can be done on a BBC budget. So there's a lot more stuff going on. But they essentially follow the plots of the first season. So I think Rimmer Squared and stuff like that, whatever, Me Squared and stuff like that, which is a great episode where there's two Arnold Rimmers. I
suppose
one for the week and one for the Sunday best.
For the uninitiated and for our friends and
we should say what Red Dwarf is.
What is Red Dwarf about, I suppose?
Well, Red Dwarf is essentially it's a comedy, sci-fi comedy show, half-hour comedy show. Starts off with two main characters. You've got Lister, who's they work on the Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf is this massive mining ship, huge spaceship floating out in space. And there's these two characters on it, Lister and Rimmer. Lister is the main character. He's this sort of space bum. He signed up and he's the lowest of the low on there. And just slightly above him is Arnold Rimmer, who is how do you describe him? How do you describe Rimmer? He's
sort of
pedantic, officious,
do-gooder,
who thinks his abilities, whose faith in his abilities far outweighs actual abilities. Is useless basically. Anyway, in the first episode, whilst trying to fix the drive plate, Lister smuggles a cat aboard and is sent into stasis. So he's put in stasis for 18 months. So he's basically locked away. Meanwhile, Rimmer causes a nuclear sort of plasma leak chain reaction thing that incinerates everyone on board, and makes the Red Dwarf radioactive for 3 million years. So the onboard computer, Holly, essentially just legs it out into deep space. 3 million years later, Lister is defrosted from stasis and finds out he's the last human. Rimmer has been brought back because he's the only person he spoke to on board, but he's now a hologram. And they are joined by the evolved cat, who's played by Danny John Jules. And so the three of them are on this massive ship in the middle of space. So it's classic, odd couple situation. And that's what it is. And then the first two seasons are just them on the ship trying to, just getting on each other's nerves, really. And then it goes from there. It's brilliant. It's so good. If you haven't watched it, which I'm sure you have, if you listen to us, I'm pretty sure you probably know of Red Dwarf. But if you haven't, go watch it because it's brilliant. And it's still brilliant.
Really is good. Yeah,
it's ace.
Really, really funny.
Yeah, so it's so cleverly written, and ignore those sort of early 80s special effects and stuff. Some of them are actually quite good, but they are what they are. But it's just the writing and the stories are just ace. Especially things like what's that one where they wake up and he's broke his leg, and the jigsaw puzzle's been done and everything, and they can't figure out what's happened. It's so good, it's so funny,
clever stuff.
Yeah, it really is good.
In fact, the funny thing is the only thing I've seen that's written as cleverly as that's in a comedy way as well is Rick and Morty. So Rick and Morty, obviously it's a very different type of comedy in many ways, but that thread of complex sci-fi logic and the twists on that logic and how that operates with a small bunch of people, that is what Rick and Morty does. And it's definitely, you see it in Red Dwarf and then you'll see it in Rick and Morty. So it's all good stuff. Really good.
I mean, Red Dwarf owes a lot of its genesis to Hitchhikers. So
yes, it does.
And the BBC TV production of Hitchhikers Guide to the Galaxy. Yes. So if you like that, then you'll probably like this because it's just as clever. It's just that those kind of looping narratives. There's a great one as well where they go faster than the speed of light and they start seeing future echoes. And things, and so they start seeing stuff from the future, and it's just loads of clever ideas and great, just good sci-fi stuff. But it's about two people who hate each other when it comes down to it, and that's always good. Red Dwarf, 17th February, The Fear.
I don't remember a lot about it. So I remember the advert briefly, and it was a period of lots of these kind of shows, but I didn't remember much about it. Did you remember it?
I have no idea. I have no recollection of this whatsoever. It stars Sir Jorah Mormont from Game of Thrones.
Ian Glenn. I think. Yeah.
Ian Glenn, yeah. So the plot of this it's the story of Carl Galton, who played by Ian Glenn, the enterprising leader of a criminal gang running a protection racket in North London. Young and ambitious, Galton represents a new breed of criminal who seeks to expand his underworld empire and takes on the old East End firms. 1980s materialism clashes with old-school London villainy as Galton rises to power. Yet his ruthlessness carries a personal cost, especially on his wife Linda, and his best friend Marty.
That sounds exactly like the Gangs of London.
Probably.
I'm going to have to watch it now because the Gangs of London's brilliant. And that sounds exactly like the same story as the Gangs of London. Well,
there's loads of those. It's like new up-and-coming, new money tricks on old established gangs.
Yeah, totally good. And there was a lot of that kind of 80s criminal gang drama around, wasn't there? There's loads of them.
Yeah, there was. 20th of February, You Bet.
Hey. Do you want to bet on it?
You bet. You bet. Well, you better get on it.
I bet you loved this, didn't you?
I did.
Bruce
You're right.
Forsyth-based game show about
What's
betting.
not to love? I even
I
watched
knew
an
you'd love
episode in honour of this. I was like, go on,
I thought you
I'll
might.
watch one on YouTube. Did you watch it? Because the bets on the episode that I watched, essentially what this is a Bruce Forsyth game show. It was an hour long. So Bruce Forsyth essentially ruled the gaming airwaves back then, didn't
Yeah,
he?
he was very, very,
and
very
stuff
popular.
and everything like that. And so ITV had him on, and this is a sort of crowd-based one. They got three. They get three stars on, and what they do is they have to they have a thing that they say, right, this we're going to see if we can do this. So I'll give you an example in a moment, and they have to bet on it. And if they bet, they have to do a forfeit, and those forfeits are shown. The one in the episode I saw was Barry McGuigan having to be driven around in a very fast rally car. And he wasn't happy about that. So the one I saw in this episode, there was the bets in this episode included a group of scouts putting up a tent blindfolded in under 3 minutes. Could they do it?
Difficult.
A farmer attempts to identify 21 apples by sight, touch, and smell.
Mm.
I don't know if he did it or not, but he might have done.
Okay.
And a man attempts to score more penalties than John Fashanu using his caterpillar digger.
John Fashanu. John Fashanu.
Fashanu. That's John Fashanu. Using his caterpillar digger. These
Bizarre.
bets are stupid. They're crazy.
Yes, they are.
No, so yeah, and then at the end there's a super bet or something where the winner of and it all gives to charity. It's money. I don't know. It's quite convoluted, but I'm not quite sure what the point of it was. It's just Bruce Forsyth doing a game show. But
Yeah. He closed the show with his Forsyth rap.
He did.
Where he shouted stuff and the audience shouted, "You bet." I think. Do you want to bet on it? You bet. Will you better get on it? You bet. So don't fret. You set out. I can't even say it. But yeah.
So don't fret. Get set. Are you ready? You bet. Good night. God bless. I'll see you next week.
I'll see you next week. I'm not as good a rapper as Bruce Forsyth. Clearly, he's
Few are.
streets ahead.
Few are. He taught Eminem.
No, there's Forsyth, Eminem, Ice-T,
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z. Yeah, so it's unbelievable. Really, he's right up there.
Brucey F.
Bruce F.
Brucey F. Brucey
Yeah,
F.
he would be Brucey F. Yeah,
Brucey F. Yeah.
That was Russian.
It's Brucey F. Hello. Do you want to bet on it? Do you want to bet on it? You bet. Russia bets on you. I didn't see this one, though, the one you've noted here, where the woman identified members of the cast of the bill by their body parts.
Yeah, there was just it was really weird. There was like a nose and an ear and a bit of forehead. It was really random. But you can Google it. But that was when Matthew Kelly did it. That wasn't Bruce Forsyth. It was, he was replaced. He was replaced later by the 9-foot-tall Matthew Kelly.
Tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be George Michael.
My name is Bill Deckard.
I'm a murderer.
I'm a murderer. Well, it's you don't like him, Bill, but off you go. I'm going to have to watch that again now.
Yep, 20th of February, London's Burning started.
Yeah, I never got into it.
No.
It was, for me, I didn't really get on with these. My mum and my aunties did. They liked Casualty. They liked all of this stuff. So when another emergency service had a soap opera based around it, they were in like Flynn.
Yep.
And because it was firemen, fire people, they're now firefighters, aren't they? But back then, it was hunky firemen as such. One of them was an ex-Grange Hill person, I think.
I think so,
It was considered, I think it was actually a mini film, ITV type film type thing.
Yes.
That was very popular. And so that became a TV show.
It did.
I know no more about. I don't think I've ever seen it actually.
No, but it ran from 1988 to 2002.
There's a lot of fires to put out.
Just one every week.
They started real fires so that they had to, put them out.
It is. Although it's a soap opera style, it's just with more money and fires. That's what it is.
Yep, it's like a crap version of Backdraft.
Yeah, and to tie in with the game or to not whatever. Was this Andy Capp month? Because Andy Capp was out. The show of Andy Capp, 22nd of February.
God.
Jesus Christ.
As soon as I read in the blurb for this that it was recorded with neither a studio audience or a laugh track, I was like, what does that tell you about it? It's supposed to be a side-splitting comedy, but it ain't. It's horrible. Did you watch a bit of it?
I watched that bit where he's hallucinating the guy on a bike in the river at the beginning.
Yeah, and then he goes home and his wife tells him he's leaving him. And she's with him. She got a plan to leave him. And I was like, God, what is this? This isn't funny.
Yeah. And then that weird fourth wall breaking, talking to the camera that they do.
Yeah. Just genuinely strange. And then it cuts to that weird sequence in the pub.
Yeah, where they're just talking to the camera.
Yeah, it's just really weird.
He's just holding up a pint of Guinness, isn't he? Going, where is he?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just weird. It doesn't work, does it? And clearly,
do you know what it reminded me of?
Them, I think.
It reminded me of the Simpsons bit, where whenever Andy Capp's not on screen, people should be saying, where's Andy Capp? Whenever Poochie's not on screen. That's literally what it reminded me of. Because it's like they're just talking about him when he's not on screen. And then when he is, it was really bad.
I couldn't believe they actually made a TV show of it. As when I saw the link in our show plan, I was like, what the friggin' hell?
Yeah, it wasn't good.
And when I saw that it was, what's his name playing it? Because he's
James
quite a
Bolam.
famous actor. James Bolam's quite the famous actor at that time.
Well, he was because
His
he's
name.
fresh from Only When I Laugh, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, you didn't make anyone laugh in this. It was only when I slowly die in a show with the most depressing premise ever.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah. If it had fallen down the stairs and broke his neck in the first episode, I wouldn't have been surprised.
And yeah, Andy Crap. There we
It's like, oh no, Andy's dead. Andy's dead. Andy's dead.
Lisa needs braces. 24th of February. Gruey.
Gruey. Don't know anything about it.
No, neither do I. Never heard of it. It's a BBC TV children's comedy. That's never a good sign.
No.
About the misadventures and escapades of Stephen Gruey Grewcock.
Come on.
That's an unfortunate name, isn't it?
Stephen I mean, they would have. It's they've changed it from Growcock, haven't they? Someone said, call him Growcock. And somebody said, you can't. It's like, oh, change it to Grewcock then. It's like, it's the cock part that's the problem, not the Grew. You stupid fool.
Yeah, but then we can't call him Gruey. It'd be Growy.
That's even worse, isn't it? It's just Stephen Growy Growcock. But more biologically accurate considering the time frame of its creation.
True, a mischievous schoolboy in the Jennings and Just William mould.
Never seen any of those. Don't know what you're talking about. Are they soaps? What are you talking about?
I have no idea. 28th February, finally, 28th February, Helping Henry.
God, I did check into that after you said
I watched the trailer, I watched the intro, and I watched the best of it. There's a link I've put there. You need to link to it.
Weird show.
So Helping Henry was a United Kingdom Channel 4 children's television program which ran for one series of 13 50-minute episodes. It was designed as an educational show. It featured a young boy called Stephen explaining how things worked to an alien named N3 or Henry. That don't work. Who was disguised as a dining room chair because his superiors believed that static four-legged things were clearly a superior species to the two legs who bustled about them. Why about the four-legged things that bustled about them, like cats, dogs, horses? You know, not horses bustle about us, but anything. Yeah. Lions,
anything that's not chairs.
Yeah. Henry was designed and built by Fluck and Law, creates puppets for Spitting Image, voiced by Jeremy Hardy. I was listening to it going, I know that voice.
Yes.
As you rightly said, well on to their third or fourth ounce of weed.
You're not kidding. At what point when they were smoking that loco weed, they go, why don't we have a kid talking to a chair? Because they're clearly the most intelligent species on the planet. Why not sofas? Why not tables? They've all got four legs. Why just pick on chairs?
Yeah. Because someone designed a chair. I did watch this.
Table shaming at its worst.
If you watch the clip, his superiors are red and blue glowing orb things that visit him for updates on what he has learnt about the human race.
It's a bit like Mork and Mindy.
Yes, yeah, except crap and a chair.
Except it's a chair, an animated chair version of Mork and Mindy. Yeah, that was when the fifth or sixth ounce of weed kicked in. Jeez. Whoa.
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, there we go. That's February. That's all the TV you get. That was to help us through this this crazy month. Backward TV shows being aired because there was a strike on. There was the Olympics, ran forever until the next one, which was the Olympiad. And we could find a job. And then Red Dwarf started, so it all got good. And You Bet happened. That's it. That's TV. We're going to take another break now, and we'll be back. We've got 4 more games to go through. I wish some of them we didn't have to go through, but have to go through them we must, for that is our remit.
We do.
So we'll be back after this break. We'll see you then.
A 10-kilogram bag of licorice all sorts and dolly mixture to our show sponsor, davidhearnwriter.com, where you will find an amazing collection of audiobooks, bargain books, ebooks, and more. David currently holds the world record on Targ for throwing a shoe. He's also the author of the fabulous book, Escape from the Commodore 64. In fact, here is a little audio bite.
We're now on the deck of a gargantuan galactic space freighter, Reese added helpfully. Apparently the droids here, you'll meet one soon, turned against their masters. There are many decks here. Not the easiest game to beat, but not only is it worth a try, it's also one of my favourite games. Nell took in the consoles, lifts and swirling floor mats around them. She stood on one of the mats and felt her energy levels rise, happy electronic bleeps accompanying her. Wow, Nell said. I feel better already.
Well, bless my barnacles. That is some good fishing. Please visit davidhearnwriter.com. That's David, Hearne, writer.com to catch a whole lot more.
And we're back. We've got 4 more games. and then we are out of here. So without further ado, let's get into these. Graham, Firetrap. Tell us about Firetrap.
Firetrap, you say? Firetrap?
Yes, tell us about
Well,
it.
that sounds like an Electric Dreams game. It must be. Produced by Jonathan Dean, who produces everything. Coded by Mike Chilton, graphics by Chris Gill, musician Chris Gill, talented fellow, Mr. Gill. So once again, Electric Dreams have sifted through the arcade obscure, looking for something looking for something
Arcade
random.
Obscura.
Yeah, the arcade obscura, looking for something random in the Objet d'Art arcade to convert. And they happened upon Firetrap, a weird old thing this, from 1986 by Data East. Oddly, it also seems based on an earlier arcade from 1980 called Crazy Climber, which was created by Nichibutsu, our friends at Nichibutsu. So there's an arcade heritage to this. Okay. The premise is fairly simple for this game. And I quite like the way that the instructions had spelled it out like a news sort of broadcast. You know, the 9:30, the situation here is really critical now. The world's tallest building, the ED apartments, burst into a ball of flames just 30 minutes ago. Hundreds of people, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea anyway. So, and it sort of goes through a timescale of like a news broadcast. I quite like that.
Yes, same here.
So essentially the story is a skyscraper tower block is on fire. You're a firefighter and your mission is to put the fire out or climb the building to the top and rescue the top person at the top as well, but potentially go up there. To do this, you don your fireproof suit and get your water cannons at the ready, and then climb up the vertically scrolling burning building, starting at the bottom and gradually climbing upwards, navigating the windows, traps, falling debris as you do so. As you climb and ascend to the tower, you've got to rescue the people and animals that are trapped by going over them, which ties a little parachute to them and floats them down to safety. You can also shoot your water cannon at the flames, which are in the windows, and those will sometimes reveal cash and bonuses, which are little suits. And the little suits allow you to do certain things. Little red suits give you more left and right sort of shooting ability, because you can only shoot up and down when you first start, or up, I think.
Just up, I think.
Down, up. But when you get the red suits, you can shoot left and right. If you get a blue suit, you get a little shield for a short amount of time. If you get an orange one, it's a little jetpack which sort of shoots you up a few floors of the building. Very handy, but don't do that if you're near the top, as I discovered, because you shoot off the top of the building and it's back down to the bottom you go. So that's really the plan. The windows in the buildings aren't all easy, of course, and some of the areas that are on this building are not climbable or passable, so you need to navigate kind of around them and sort of find a route. If you hit by objects, you'll fall, and if you fall too far, obviously you restart at a sort of point where you almost were. I'm not sure if it's exactly where you got to. I'm not sure what the demarcation for that is, but anyway, you don't just start at the bottom every time.
I think it knocks you a lower, like the building
so you
sections,
go so
isn't
further
it? So you
down.
go a section down.
Yeah, which is pretty cool that it does it like that. You've got 5 lives as well, so you've got 5 attempts to try and get to the top. It isn't easy, I tell you.
No.
If you do get to the top and rescue the final woman, you jetpack her down to the ground, finish that tower, and it's on to the next one. There are 16 towers to complete in total. Now, this game is as rough as arse. It is. The graphics are quite badly drawn on the whole, and it's quite a messy, blocky affair with really odd colours. It is. The screen is a kind of a view of the corner of the building, so it's, no, I won't say it's isometric. You see 2 faces of the building, sort of from the corner view. It's the best way to describe it. I don't know if that's classed as isometric, but
I suppose it is kind of isometric. I think it is.
But yeah, it is. It's not orthographic. It is isometric, I think. But anyway, that's the view you get. So imagine looking at a building from the corner. One angle is the left-hand side of the building, one hand is the right side, and you have to sort of navigate your way up and around the windows that are on fire and the obstacles that are falling and things that sort of shoot at you. And there's a very nice arcadey logic to that. So as you do view it from that corner, you've essentially got 2 faces to climb. The towers are quite tall, but you do get a little mini map if you hit that shows you kind of where your progress is and how far up you've got. And you've got to kind of get all the way to the top. It's not easy to do. And that's how far you've got to climb. The UI is simple enough here. The main window is the game, obviously. Bottom of the screen, you've got your stage points, your stage that you're at, the points you've acquired, and the time you've got left. And this has been constructed in a weird variant of medium res all the way through. So it has kind of an odd way of scrolling. It's not quite smooth, but it kind of works in the context that you're climbing. It just gets away with it. So it doesn't need to be floaty smooth. It just kind of works.
Yeah, it does.
Now, as much as I hate to say it, I actually quite like this.
Don't hate to say it.
The music is a variation of the arcade. It's not great, but it's okay. The graphics are pretty badly done, but they kind of work. But what there is in all of this is a really fun game to play. And it's pretty damn addictive as well. So I took a look at the arcade version of this as well on YouTube. I've never come across this arcade in my entire life, ever. I've never heard of it.
Nope.
So I went and looked at the arcade. And the arcade, this is a pretty close approximation. Obviously, you're not going to get the fidelity of a bloody arcade game on the C64. We'll get that now. No, Outland's proved it. We've proved it in tests.
We did.
But this is a decent approximation of that. And pretty much all of the arcade is here. Yes, it's very rough. It's rough as arse, in fact. But the game is here. And the game is really, really good. It's a classic arcade setup for something. A simple premise, obstacles in the way and hazards, climb to the top. This is Donkey Kong in a different format, really, in a sort of unusual way.
Yeah, it's a good call.
It's not barrels coming at you. But it's that kind of... And there's nothing wrong with Donkey Kong, and there's nothing wrong with this. I really, really like this. Now, you're never going to love this conversion. You're not. You're going to look at it and go, God, the graphics are blocky, medium res. And especially at the price, again, it's full price. But there's something about this game. I was playing this for ages. I really got into it. I couldn't tell you why, but I think that's the hook of something. And it made me realise, actually, that a bloody good idea in an arcade is a bloody good idea when it's converted. Now, we've said average begets average many times, and there's been a lot of that. This is not an average arcade game. I've never heard of it, but what I'd seen is a simple arcade. And I think even the arcade, you have to climb by literally moving the left and right. You've got two joysticks, I think, and you have to operate them like left, right, I think, because if you look at the arcade on YouTube, there's a little sort of intro bit, and this sort of it indicates that might be the way. Now, I've never seen the arcade, and I've never played it, and never probably will, so someone may be able to confirm that. However, that aside, the control system here, obviously, it's the joystick and the fire button to squirt you water things and stuff like that. Other than that, you're just climbing. It keeps everything simple. It's a simple logic to this. It's not too punitive. You don't die and start at the bottom. It's not army moves hard, so you don't die. You do stand a chance of getting up that tower. If you get up to the tower without losing a life, which I can't imagine you'd do, but you might. It has that kind of appeal. It has the nebulous type appeal about tower things. It's just games that do this simple premise, they work. And yes, it's graphics are rough around the edges and the audio is not amazing, but they got the core game right. And maybe it lacks a polish, okay, but I really like this. I thought it was a great game and one of the best arcade versions we've come across in terms of capturing the arcade's playability completely and it being a whole lot of bloody fun. I was battling away at that tower for ages. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not going to add much to that. The only thing I would say is that they've condensed the view, haven't they? Because in the arcade, one side of the building takes up the whole screen, doesn't it? And then it sort of scrolls across to the right. So it's wider. It's wider on the arcade, and the one side takes up the entire screen. Then when you flip to from left to right, it scrolls across to the right hand side or flicks across. I think so. Sure.
Yeah, it's certainly it's an approximation of it.
Yeah, so they condense it down, so it just scrolls upwards rather than having to scroll it left and right, which is fair enough. Yeah, so it's another Data East arcade conversion via Electric Dreams. It's an odd and obscure one for certain. I've never heard of it either. Never heard of it. Never played it. Never seen it anywhere. But it is more proof that anything that could be licensed and converted would be licensed and converted. As you said, you play as the heroic fireman sent in to climb the outside of the burning skyscrapers. A strangely isometric vertical climber. I think it's almost a very good game. There's a few things that let it down. Just some annoying and some inconveniences for the player. I thought it was pretty well made. It's a fast pace. It's got decent scrolling. I think the scrolling, as you said, it works fine. You don't notice it. It just works. It's all right. It's fine.
Yeah, it does, because you're climbing, so I think it just gets away with it. And I wasn't really focusing on it, to be honest.
No, exactly. It's got responsive controls. I thought the music burbles along in the background. I quite like the music, actually. It's kind of a weird... It's kind of one of those sort of tense tunes. I don't know how to sort of describe it. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of one of them tunes that sort of burbles along, but keeps the feeling of sort of tension going. It's quite good. The visuals, as you said, they're a little basic. I won't say much more on them. I think you've adequately described what they look like. They do the job. It's easy to see what's going on, though, I thought. So it is. Yeah. So that's always good. It communicates what you can do quite easily, quite quickly, visually, very well. Rescuing dogs and people and sending them flying out on parachutes is pleasurable. It's fun. It puts a little smile on your face.
Yeah.
The ability to shoot the fires and the falling objects give you some degree of protection. I did find, though, it's easy to push the falling objects just out of range of your projectile, but still in line with you, so they'll hit you on the way down. Yeah. That's a bit annoying. And there's also a tendency for fires to break out of windows when you're in front of them.
Yeah, that does happen.
And there's nothing you can do to avoid losing a life, so that's a bit annoying. Still, as arcade conversions go, though, this is certainly one of the better ones we've seen. Being something, as we said, the machine can replicate. It's something the C64 and the 8-bit machines, it can do it. It's simple vertical scrolling going upwards. The simple premise, it's easy to understand and get into. There's no, like you said, the story is well presented in that new style, but it's easy to understand. Climb, okay, put the fires out. It gets a bit repetitive after a while, as most simple arcade games do, and it does feel unfair at times, like I said. But it's got that arcade level of difficulty. This is tricky bloody game. This really hard, especially if you go up a route and then you blocked off. You're like, I've got to climb down now. Dead annoying. Is it worth $9.99? Maybe not. I don't know. It's a solid port, fair bit of fun to play, but I don't know. You probably like it. Yeah, I think I think you've liked it more than I did, but I'm not gonna knock it. I think it's a decent game. It's fun. That's all you need.
I liked it.
Sometimes.
It actually surprised me. I didn't think I would, but I did.
No, well, I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea.
No,
so,
same.
So I was like, this could be crap. This could be another Data East nightmare. Or luckily it wasn't. So fair play. This is a decent little conversion. Good stuff. Just hard. All right. Our next F game. Let's move into it.
Not as hard as this one, though.
Not as hard as this one, because this is Freddy Hardest. Oh, God. Okay, let's start with Freddy Hardest. This is from Imagine. It's $8.95, and it's some of the team that brought us the Game Over series. I think the Game Over 2. And the work might worked on Game Over, some other bits and bobs. There comes Freddy Hardest. This is the story of the universe's most irreverent playboy and all-round lounge lizard. After getting a little too tanked up at his last soiree, Freddy takes to the stars in his spaceship. 5 sheets to the wind and attempts to navigate a nearby meteor shower. He crashes his craft into one of them, loses control, and plummets onto the nearby moon of the planet Ternat, the home base of the enemy Kaldar. Unlucky. However,
That's
luckily,
unlucky.
Freddy is also one of the most intelligent members of the Sidereal Free Planet Confederation's SPEA Agency Service of Counter-Espionage.
Of course he is.
He doesn't sound very intelligent, I have to say.
No.
Anyway, he just sets out to destroy the enemy base and get home in time for cornflakes, because that's what he's got to do. This was coded by Fernando Jimenez, and the graphics were by Javier Cubedo. Upon loading, we have a rather nondescript tune and the option to start the game or redefine our keys. Being an interstellar playboy, I opt to jump straight in with my joystick. Why would I not? After enduring the intro sequence, which you will see a lot,
Quite a few times.
of Freddy's ship crashing into the nearby moon, the game reveals itself as a left-to-right shooter and jumper, as Freddy must navigate his way over the moon's landscape that is dotted with bubbling craters and deathly pits, whilst also avoiding the constantly spawning enemies that float through the skies or run and slither along the ground. The only way Freddy can defend himself and navigate this terrain is with a mighty bound.
Another one.
Another mighty bound, which you can't do anything. Once you're in that mighty bound, you better have done it right. You can also do a leaping kick, press the fire button, or you can crouch and then press the fire button, which allows you to blast your laser. Why you can't shoot your laser stood up, I don't know. The screen is split into two. The screen is split into two, with the top 2/3 taken up with the game itself and the bottom being the UI. There's nothing much to note there in the UI. There's a pointless picture of Freddy in the bottom right-hand corner, left-hand corner, I can't remember. Left-hand corner, I think. Then the number of lives, the power left in your laser, a pointless few dots, your score, and then a big empty space. For reasons. Freddy must survive the outdoor section to make it to the second section, like Game Over. There was that first section, then the second section, like Army Moves, that first section. So it's in that mold. It's in that mold of those games. If you do make it there, and you won't,
Absolutely no chance.
because it's so hard. Although, to be fair, I did watch a full playthrough by one of our Patreons, AL82 Retro, who's got a full playthrough of this on his YouTube channel. And I was watching it going, good Lord, how long did it take you to do this? Quite long, I imagine. So it is possible, but it looks stupidly hard. If you do make it here, you won't, though. Not any normal person, not any normal game player. You must have superhuman skills to get here. You're given a code to access it, and the section is loaded separately. In this final section, Freddy must steal one of 4 color-coded spaceships by finding the right captain's log. You find the nuclear energy cells and the hyperdrive instructions to escape. It's all played out in a more colourful version of the game V. It looks like V, and is just as enjoyable. Take from that what you will. So 2 games for the price of 1 again, but neither is very good because it's all just too bloody hard. It's the same problem we saw with other games of this ilk, Army Moves and Game Over. There's no consideration for difficulty, and the lackluster gameplay and rather boring feel to the game do not enthuse you to try and get past that first section or get any better at it. The visuals, they look like Game Over. They're in that style. They're colourful in lots of blues and greys. They're nicely drawn. They're okay. The animation's pretty good. The monsters are weird. They're okay. They're a tad medium res and blocky at times. Some nice bubbly stuff. The landscape's quite nice. You know, the sprite, what you're crashing on. Visually, it's all right. Use of colour is good. But it's like I said, it's just like those other games we looked at by these guys. They just have a look and a feel and a design ethos that is simply not player friendly. And that does nothing to make you want to persevere with the game. It's a bit of a shame, really. The second half is at least a bit different and looks relatively okay. You know, so that V style where you're running around multi-level things, trying to find stuff and shoot things. So it just looks like V, so you know what to expect from that. But the demands of the first half are so stupid and off-putting, you'll give up long before you get anywhere near it. With some tweaking of the level design, without the constant spawning of enemies, this could have been okay. but it's just tailored far too much towards the difficult end of the spectrum. Even back then, I was just put off these kinds of games, and that was with 15, 16-year-old reflexes of lightning. But here now, it's just no chance. I've just got no chance. So I'm just like, I'm not bothering. Too hard. It's just badly designed. It's you just stood at waiting at an edge, waiting to jump, and just constantly spawning spanners in the air. I didn't know what they were, or nuts or bolts, whatever they were. What were they? Do you know?
Don't know.
They just look like
just stupid shit.
Yeah, it's just weird crap just spawning massively in the air, which you can't jump, because once you jump, you can't shoot. It's a pain in the ass. But it also did make me think, do they know that the V blueprint for games is actually pretty crap? So they hide it behind these impossible sections so you never see it. So they know that it's rubbish. So like in V, they hide it behind that stupid code you've got to break. So because they know that the rest of the game, that actual blueprint for game design is boring. So maybe that's what the whole point is here. I didn't like this. It's too hard. It's just, it's just another one of their kind of games. And it's well made, I suppose, and it runs and there's no bugs and everything works it should do. But it's so unfriendly and it's so unpleasant to play in that respect. I just can't get on with these sort of things. It's just the difficulty levels. It's just unfairly stupid. And so Freddy Hardest was just too hard for me, I'm afraid. What about you?
Same, too bloody hard. That was my first sentence. It looks quite good, doesn't it? Freddy Hardest. I mean, it sounds kind of less interesting, but it does kind of look the part. Quite cartoon-like in its sort of presentation. But the game's just impossible. Actually impossible. I could barely get across the first part of the very first screen, trying to get past onto that little level thing that was going up and down, which I hate those things in games anyway.
Yeah, Game Over had that as well, didn't it?
I mean, can you imagine if you made Mario this hard? It wouldn't have been the most successful game in the world, would it? Or one of the most successful games of all time. No,
exactly.
The controls don't help this either, do they? Let me shoot when I jump. If you're going to have obstacles in the air that I can't avoid when I jump, let me shoot them. Let me shoot when I want to. Actually, if I'm going to kick, make it happen fast. It's the slowest kicker in the world.
Yeah,
it's like stupid. So, and because of those things, you're disadvantaged in every way that you can be. So you either make the shooting faster, you make me kick faster, you make me able to do and kick and do, lightning fast things, a la Kung Fu Master type thing. You don't feel overwhelmed in Kung Fu Master, even though you've got loads of people coming at you, because you can spin and kick and punch really fast.
Yeah.
Imagine if it was at this speed. No. So if you don't allow me to jump and you're going to give me a bound and you take away my ability to really, in fact, you are disadvantaging me in every way in this game, and then put platforms in there that I've got to land on that are stupidly tiny and then put obstacles in the way of them. What's the point? What's the point in even going to the extent of making a level 2 when you know full well that very few people will ever see it, apart from obvious, crazy good players like AL82. Anyway, so I thought this every game rulebook around difficulty has been shit on for this. And what you end up with is just plain frustrating. Freddy Hardest, definitely. But it isn't any fun, is it, to be that? So, no thanks. Go away. 10 quid as well. 9 quid. No, thank you.
No,
Goodbye.
It's weird as well that it's Imagine that put this out, because obviously they're owned by Ocean, aren't they? But
back of a cupboard, I reckon. Fine. Finish it off, get it out there. Might make a few quid. Rubbish.
Yeah.
Well, pretty rubbish, but rubbish.
Yes, indeed. There's Freddy Hardest. Move on. Let's move on from that. It's Graham. You got this one. Tell us what it's like to go through the trapdoor.
Well, do you know what? Let me start off by just reminding you, what was the key lyric in the original Trapdoor song? The key lyric was, don't you open that trapdoor.
Yeah.
Because there's something down there. So why create a game where the first thing you do is go through the trapdoor? Anyway, or whatever. This is by Don Priestley again, using the Don Priestley engine. So you know what it's going to look like. Looks like all the other Don Priestley games. On the back of the box, we have this. Burke is back. And he's getting ready to make the fearsome, awesome, totally terrifying expedition down through the trapdoor. Why? Anyway, it doesn't matter. If you have seen the creepy critters that live down there, you may well wonder why. Yes. But the truth is he has no choice. Boney has been captured and taken down into the gloomy depths. So Burke and Little Drut must go to the rescue no matter what nasties they come up against. And what about all those potions lying around just waiting to be drunk? Could they be helpful? Could they mean trouble? Or could they even cause constant ponging?
Ponging?
Yeah, I think, passing breezes. Speed, skill, and daring will be necessary to get out alive. So Burke is about to carry out another task. This is playing the game. Burke is about to carry out another task for his master, the bad-tempered thing, when his faithful companion Boney is snatched from under his very nose by an awful apparition that appears from beneath the dreaded trapdoor. Playing the part of the fearless Burke and his minuscule sidekick Drut, you must boldly go forth on a rescue mission and face the unknown perils that lurk below. That's the premise of the game. Back of the box. Done, dusted. This game looks like Trapdoor. It looks like Don Priestley's games. So giant, big, flicky kind of graphics, cartoon-esque looking, slow, ploddy movement. This is a little bit faster, I think, a little bit, because there's basically nothing on the screen most of the time, apart from some of the scenery. And so it's that kind of approach to it again. And this is odd, this is like a step backwards for the trapdoor type games, because the first game, I don't remember liking it massively, but I don't remember hating it either. I just remember thinking it was a bit slow and a bit ploddy, and I think there was logic traps in there that made it frustrating. But I didn't hate it, not as much as I hated this. So here we go on another adventure with Burke. This time, instead of following the clear guidance from the first game, which is you don't open the trapdoor. You open the trapdoor, Boney's kidnapped, and off you go. You actually control Burke and Drut in this. You switch between them. You control them both with the joystick. I say control. That's stretching it with Drut a little bit, isn't it? I'd say that you provide him with a potential direction.
Which he is likely to just ignore.
Yeah, it does most of the time. So you actually control Burke, really, and not so much Drut. But the idea is that you switch between them, because between the two of them, you have puzzles to solve, and some things Burke can do and some things Drut can do. I never came across any of the things that either of them could do, because the puzzles are vague. And the idea is you wander around. There's, I think, 4 regions to explore. In those regions, you've got a series of puzzles and creatures that you've got to deal with along the way. You've got to open some locked doors, which give access to other regions. There's things you can fall through, and scattered around, there's sweets and toadstools and things you can eat, which give Burke some kind of characteristics, which I'm not familiar with. I didn't get into this far into the game to figure out what that even meant. Progress is apparently made when you use the 2 characters together, something which I doubt that you'll do, because the very minute you control Drut and move him to a position, he just go, as soon as you switch to Burke, he just chases off after worms and then comes back to you. So he just will always find his way back to you no matter where you are. Even if you're at the bottom of a bottomless pit, Drut will come strutting back to you at some point. So the premise of the game is that it doesn't control very well. It's kind of a ploddy pace as well, so it's not fast or it's not terribly slow, but it's not a game that's going to thrill you with its speed or anything like that. It's very dull. The graphics here are the usual Don Priestley stuff, so they kind of look like they're supposed to, but they have that weird flickeriness I don't like about them. But the quiet dullness to this game, which belies the anarchic origins of the original material, is even quieter and more dull than the original Trapdoor was, if that's actually possible. At least that had periodic intervention from the bad-tempered thing or whatever it's called. This doesn't have any of that. It's kind of silent. It's like a really weird, silent, dull movie version with the occasional blip and blop of sound, but nothing that's going to really make you feel like you're doing anything other than navigating a flicky blue blob around pointlessly. I don't know what this really is for, this game. I'm guessing it's popular on other platforms, so I think maybe this is a conversion for convenience. I don't feel that there's any passion for this. I don't think there's a market for it on the C64, and it's not playing to any strengths of anything. It lacks any fun or excitement of any kind. The controls interfere with the play so much that it makes it feel pointless, and the puzzles are so obscure, and it's such a pain in the arse to control that just no. This game must never be. So for $8.95, nah, not for me. Through the trapdoor, it was through the crap door. And yes, it's obvious I'm taking that low-hanging fruit and I'm having a good old. I'm making a pie with it.
You make my last line almost word for word. Damn you! I'll come up with a better one. It'll be anyway. Yeah, this was actually it's another turd from the arse of five-way software.
Yeah,
Do you remember five-way software?
Unfortunately,
Astonishing Adventures of Mr. Weems, Gunboat, Cat Trap, Strike Force Cobra.
yeah, and this.
And now this. So they did the conversion. It's slow, uncontrollable, far slower than the Spectrum version, which makes an already twitchy and tumor-inducing game even worse. Through the Trapdoor is another attempt at the big characters waddling around adventures that Mr. Priestley likes to do. The sheer obtuse and fiddly nature of the puzzles and just navigating the game make it very unenjoyable to do so. Burke is so slow in this version as to be almost somnambulistic, and Drut is clearly mashed off his massive eyeballs. There must be something in those worms he keeps guzzling down. Remember, they sell the cocktail in the nightclub Spiders called the Wiggly Worm. I don't remember.
Right,
one of those with jelly worms in it that soaked up all the alcohol, and when you glug it and then eat the worm, you're almost just instantly hammered. I can only assume that is what Drut is constantly doing, because there must be something in those worms. There must be. There's nothing enjoyable here, neither in the sound, visuals, with a lack of sound, visuals, or playability aspect of the game. It's a true stinker. It reminds me of what I flush through my trapdoor every morning after a wiggly worm or two. Yeah, through the trapdoor, poo the trapdoor, whatever.
Poo the crap door.
Poo the crap door. If I've written, I know it's easy to be hell with it. I'm having it. It's all. This was dreadful.
Awful.
I mean, trying to control Drut was such, and like I don't even know you're supposed to be walking on the floor or the bit above the floor because you just randomly change. And
I know they picked that in Zapped as well. They picked out the fact that there's a clear issue with where the sprite thing sits, because sometimes it actually blocks you from progressing into places.
But that happens in the Spectrum version as well, because I was watching it on YouTube. So it's just badly designed and badly. I don't know what he was thinking.
Don't you go be too critical of the Don Priestley engine. It's great at making Don Priestley games.
It's absolutely. If you want massive things slowly moving around boringly, then that's your engine to license. Even these days, the Unreal Engine and Unity is in fear of the Priestley engine when it comes to massive things wobbling about slowly. I'm sorry. I'm sure he makes great games.
Don. Sorry, Don.
The 64 versions are just not. They're not the home for these games.
No. Nowhere's the home for this crappy thing. I don't know why it exists. I don't get it. It's not fun. It's not even the sort of adventure that happened in the TV show Trapdoor. They never went down the trapdoor. That's the whole damn point.
At least in the first game, Trapdoor, you were making meals for the thing upstairs, weren't you? Which is what you were doing in the show, and that made sense.
And the whole point in the show was that things came out of the trapdoor and they had to deal with it, not you went into the trapdoor because someone got kidnapped.
Yeah.
Even the premise is kind of moribund for a kid's show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kidnap and imprisonments. They're not fun things for any kind of blob to investigate.
No, especially one that's off his tit, a small yellow blob off his eyeballs.
Aye.
God, there's so much coke and weed in this episode. It's beyond belief.
There is. Honest, there is definitely between the eye and bloody through the trapdoor and God knows Bone Cruncher,
and then the TV episodes we had to look at.
Absolutely, blimey! It's just goodness. It's the 80s, though, wasn't it?
It
Late
was,
80s.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move into our last one. We've got one game left. And the other bookend is here. So we've got the other football game that we spoke about at the start. And this is, well, the UK version is Gary Lineker's Superstar Soccer.
Here we go.
It is. Dun, 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 dun.
Gary Lineker.
Hey, boy, pass to the
Dave
right,
Seaman.
pass to the left. Yeah, okay. Anyway, Superstar Soccer. This is $9.99 or $14.99 on disc. It's got two different scores. This as well. 74% for the disc version, 58 for the tape version.
I can imagine why.
Yeah, exactly why. We'll come to it in a bit, but we'll have a look at this anyway. And for all intents and purposes, we're looking at the disc version because that's the version we're going to get hold of these days. So let's talk about the disc version. Do you remember when we reviewed Superstar Ice Hockey and you said?
Here we go.
And you said that if you turned the pitch green and got rid of the sticks, you'd have a football game.
Yeah.
Well, there you are, because that's exactly what this is. From the same people at Mindscape, and it was released the previous year, I think in the US, as Superstar Soccer. Gremlin Graphics have picked this up and slapped Gary Lineker on the front cover, although he's nowhere to be seen in the game by the looks of things. Although maybe he's actually who was he playing for at this point? Was it Barcelona or Tottenham? I think it was Barcelona. And as we don't have any European sides in it, he's nowhere.
That's true. Never even occurred to me, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because he started at Leicester. I think did he come? I think he came back and played at Tottenham after at Barcelona. I can't remember his career, but anyway,
He definitely didn't play for Scunthorpe. I can know that much.
He didn't play for Scunthorpe. That was Ian Bosa.
No, so I said he definitely didn't play for Scunthorpe.
Well, no, he didn't. No. Anyway, our second footy game of the week, brought to you by the people behind Ice Hockey Superstar Indoor. Ice Hockey Superstar Indoor Sports. That ping pong game. So it's Ed Ringler, Simon Finch, Michael Goodwin, and John A. Fitzpatrick on design, graphics, sound, and all that kind of thing. This is very much in the style of Ice Hockey. In fact, if it was made by anyone else, it would be litigious because it looks exactly the same. Like I said, originally released as just Superstar Soccer. This review, I actually did look at both of them because the version of Gary Lineker's that I had seemed to be cracked and frozen in the middle of a game. So I went and just looked at the Superstar Soccer version, which had the full menus and everything. It was the start of a league game, so I don't think much was missed anyway. In the full version, after the Mindscape logo and intro and a lot of loading, this game is slow on disc. We get a menu screen asking us to enter our name for the club, and then we get into it. Here we can view the league, the team history, the cup results, the game scores. These football games this week, they like their options and stuff, so it's good stuff.
Don't they just?
The divisions, we can also recruit a player, trade a player, which is weird, and I think shows its American roots, because that's much more of a American football, baseball
Ice hockey type
ice
thing.
hockey type thing. Yeah, you can improve the team. Which if you do, you just get. It says how much do you want to spend on it. You go whatever. You get a message that your team has improved. It doesn't say how or in what way. Just
Does that in the ice hockey game?
Just improved. We improved them.
So, in fact, that's the same as the ice hockey game and the American football game at one point that we saw that looks a bit like this as well.
Yeah. You can set your team up. You can start a new league. Or go and play the next game. So let's do that. Here we get the usual pre-match Mindscape options screen where you can pick your colours. So you've got home and away colours for each team. Select if you want the outfield player. Like ice hockey, you only control one player in this to be player 1, whether you want the goalie to be player 2 or the computer, and whether you want the coach to be controlled by the player or the computer. After that, you start the game. More loading happens. Lots of loading. And then the football starts. But it doesn't start yet because then you've got your, like in the ice hockey game, you've got your options, your strategy screen, should we say, your stat, whatever you want to call it. And you get to pick your defensive and attacking tactics and whether you want any subs, which is odd since you've just started, you've not started the game yet, but there you go. And then you're into the game. Now, first impressions of this are pretty decent. It's got a standard side-on view, a la Matchday 2, International Soccer, and so on. And like Matchday, I think it's 7-a-side. Was it 7-a-side or 6-a-side?
Yeah, 6, I think. I don't know.
I think something like that. 6 or 7-a-side. But the pace in this is far greater than what we saw in Matchday 2. It's much faster, this. The ball pings about well, and you have a decent set of controls at your disposal. As noted, as in ice hockey, you only control one person throughout the entire game. But I did feel that because of the bigger pitch space on this, it didn't feel as bad as it did in ice hockey. There was something better. There was maybe because I know football a bit better. I felt that it worked a bit better in this for some reason. And the camera followed, like ice hockey followed the puck. This follows the ball, so it's possible to be off screen for some time. You get used to it. If you know where you are, just keep running towards the screen so you come back on. Movement is the usual 8-way, but if you do not have the ball, holding the fire button down makes you sprint. Now, that's the first time I think we've seen that in a football game, to have two speeds.
Yeah, actually.
I don't think we've seen another game where if you hold it down, when you're not in control, you sprint.
No, I don't think you have.
So that's quite nice. To shoot, you hold down the fire button, and you've got to pay attention to the meter at the top of the screen that is going back and forth. So kind of like that kickometer we saw in Matchday 2. It's weird how these two games kind of come along and do similar sort of things. But this one's a bit different. You've kind of got this bar going back and forth between there's an arrow at one side pointing up and an arrow one side pointing down. And what this is the direction of the shot towards the goal. So essentially, so if you let go and the bar is nearer the downward arrow, it will aim towards the downward part of the pitch, to the bottom of the screen. It's going to aim downwards. If it's near the upper arrow, it'll aim upwards, and the closer it is to the upper arrow, the more the angle is. So if you just want it slightly above you, so if you're running right to left and you're aiming that, your player's facing to the right, and you want it to go up slightly, you just want it just beyond as it's going towards the upper arrow, and you'll sort of aim it that way. So that's quite nice, actually. It's intuitive once you get the hang of it, because you can just hold down the fire button and just let go, and when it's in the right place, and you can actually get some aim on your shots. That's again not something I think we've seen before in a game, really. So that's quite a nice touch. There are other nice touches as well. Players get injured, forcing substitutions. I had one of my players get injured, got tackled and injured, and okay. Free kicks get fouled as well, so they can happen as well. But there are some issues with it too. Like I said about ice hockey, the goalies are next to useless. and I mean, unfortunately, absolutely useless. They're just awful. They they'll dive, whatever. They throw the ball to nowhere. They move out of the way of shots. And there's a strange rule that if they hold on to the ball for too long, the offense gets a corner. That's so weird. The attackers get a corner, which I don't think happens. It would be back then. I think if you held on to it for more than 4 seconds, you got an indirect free kick with the rules back then. But not in this. It's a corner. Don't ask. Especially annoying as you don't control them. So sometimes they'll just give away, and they take no notice of what you are doing, where your player has run to. You may be running their standing space, and they'll just throw it to the other side, right into one of their other players. So that's annoying. The other issue is that despite all the detail around the game, the actual football bears no resemblance to an actual game of football. It feels really arcadey. It feels like an arcade variant of it. Something along the lines of something like Virtua Striker by Sega, somewhere down the line, that 3D version, which it feels much more arcadey. Goals ping in everywhere. It's stupid, the amount of goals that go in. I scored from my own penalty box, which is stupid. Overhead kicks from goal kicks fly into the top corner. Passes are fast. Shots can happen at any point, no matter which way you're facing. It's a weird and odd combination of arcade and simulation. And when games end up with double-digit scores, I mean, I think I ended up something like about 22-16 at some point. Because because it's crazy. Any sense of realism goes out the window. So it's speedy and odd. And if you take it in that light and don't go in expecting full on realism, you probably have a good time with this. There's some nice animations and everything moves along quickly. The graphics, the player graphics, they're okay. They're like the ones we saw in ice hockey. They're not brilliant. They're okay. The animation's okay. There's some nice bits. I like the animation when they do the overhead kicks. That's quite nice. But they happen all the time. All the time. It's kind of strange. And the need for tactics at every whistle blow gets annoying after a while. I wish you could just sort of set it for the half. We're just going to be attacking or whatever. But as far as C64 football games go, certainly one of the better ones we've looked at. Is it better than Matchday 2? It's hard to compare them because it's different. Matchday 2, I think, is going for the slower, more simulation, realistic end of the spectrum. This is just arcadey. And I think this shows its American roots, I think, whereas the Matchday 2 is British. And I think that the thing what you used to hear from American people was that football was boring or soccer was dull. You know, you could have play for 90 minutes and it ended 0-0 and no one liked that. And that's why soccer would never really got popular in America very long for quite a while. They just thought it was boring. American football, baseball, basketball. Basketball is what, 120 to 118 usually is.
Yeah, big scores.
They're like massive scores. American football is, 40 odd to 30 odd. So football comes along and it's like 0-0 after 90 minutes in the mud. Like, that don't work.
True.
So I think this has got some of that. Let's make it more, high scoring and a bit more interested in that. And I think that's part of it. So if you want that, then there's a decent football game here. It's fast, it's speedy, it plays decently. There's some nice control mechanisms, and it's fun. And in 2-player, I imagine it's quite a lot of fun because it'd just be stupid and you'd just be like, who can score from the strangest place? Because the goalies are useless, so you're going to score from everywhere. So it really just depends on what you want from a football game. But it's good. I did like it. It's just different. What about you?
Yeah, what can you say? Looked like the hockey game, didn't it? Only with a different sport. Same kind of crazy option controls, really, with some kind of football league added, I guess. I noted that I'd laughed, actually, that there were teams listed such as Doncaster, Scunthorpe and Grimsby.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's all 4 divisions of the English thingy, so it does have that.
Just looking at them, like setting their benchmark pretty low there. But there you go. I decided on Grimsby versus Swansea for no reason whatsoever. I just thought, why not? Chose my options and then settled in for the night while it loaded. Just
made a cup of cocoa, got toasty,
grew a beard. It was I had it on warp and it took a million years. I hate to think how long this took back on an actual 1541C drive. You'd have been clacking and buzzing. They'd have been doing that for ages. But the game did play fast, but it was eerily silent as well, apart from when you scored or when somebody scored, which happens a lot, which sounded like a missile strike.
Yeah.
And the buoying of the football every now and again, which was really off-putting. But like you say, again, you have to sort of take what you get for what you get, right? This was too void of atmosphere, but it did have the speed. It had plenty of options, albeit that they were kind of weird options.
Yes, yeah.
But options are options. And like you said, it played weirdly, and I'm not sure quite where it sat with me, because when I play these sort of games, I don't really like football games anyway. So I'm kind of coming at them with, okay, so if I wanted to just play this game, I'm just going to try and get it casually again, a casual player come in. This one was a little bit more an easier in to play.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think that comes at a cost of a certain type of football game playing fan isn't really going to like some of the silliness, like you said, 25-6 or whatever it was. I was think that team won by in this game, because you can literally score by accident. No, a couple of occasions I kicked the ball, it went completely the wrong way to what I was actually thinking it was going to do, and it went in. I'm like, how did that even happen?
Yeah, if you hold down the fire button to shoot, you'll shoot straight at goal, no matter which way you're facing.
I get it. That's the kind of World Cup mentality. The way Brazil used to play back in the 80s was just shoot from anywhere. Yeah. And so that's kind of, and I guess, and in that sense, I suppose I can see that why it got the 74%. It's not a great football game for its strategy, and it's an okay football game to play. But I suppose it's just perhaps it's an easier in than Matchday. But Matchday is a much more thorough version of football than you're going to get in this. I don't know. It's not a terrible game. I mean, it's certainly well made. I'll give it that. The construction of it is. But the ice hockey game was well made, and the only criticism we had of that was that you need to be into ice hockey. I think they've tried to soften that a little bit to try and make it a bit more approachable. Putting Gary Lineker on the front is neither here nor there. They may as well not bothered.
Yeah, it's weird that.
But hey ho, it's another football game. It isn't a bad one though. And now you've got 3 in the league, haven't you? You've got this, you've got Matchday, and you've got international soccer still.
Yeah,
I don't know. I still think international soccer still hangs in there a bit, doesn't it? It's crazy, but it does.
But the two that I think we've got coming up, we've got Emily Hughes' soccer, which I think a lot of people say is the best, and we've also got Micropro soccer at some point.
Yeah, we have got those.
And we've got those to look forward to.
So we'll see what they come up like. Again, like I said with Matchday, it wasn't really till the Amiga and Sensible Soccer really where it started to become more of a playable thing for me. But that said, this isn't a terrible football game, and it's certainly one of the better games we've played for this particular episode of the podcast as well, which says a lot. I think I found this as a casual player an easier in, but that isn't saying a lot because I wouldn't have played either of this or Matchday really.
No,
so
it's a more entertaining game because of the stupid scores. If you just want a bit of a laugh and a giggle with if it's just you and your mate going, right, let's have a quick game.
Yeah.
Matchday requires more of the player. This is just charge around, shoot from, like I said, I scored from my own penalty box, shoot from anywhere, who cares? Overhead kicks from goal kicks. It don't matter. It makes no sense.
No. I think it's just one for the, like you said, for people that just want a game of football and not too worried about the complexity of the game and everything else, then Gary Lineker's. If you want to get a bit more inside of a two-player or co-op type game and get into accept the slowness of it, but Matchday 2 is probably going to be where your compass is pointing. So
yeah, probably
they're both good football games if you like that kind of thing.
And just to say, the tape version, my understanding is that you pick two teams and play, it loads the game in, and that's it. There's no league, there's no cup, and then you have to reset it and reload and pick different teams if you want another game. So that's why the tape version got knocked down to 58%.
Makes sense.
It does, which so that's you're just left with the game itself, which I suppose if all you wanted was a game of footy, but it's slow to load, so God knows. But an interesting thing. But what I found interesting about this, as you note there, is the slap a license on it. It's not even in it. It's not even mentioned in it.
No,
his team's not even in it.
Well, it's going to sell it to kids, isn't it? Essentially.
Yeah, it is.
Matchday 2, if they'd have called it Gary Lineker's Matchday 2, they'd have probably sold an extra 100,000 or something. He was a big name, wasn't he, back then?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know what his currency is now, other than what he sells for crisps and that. But
he's the highest paid presenter on BBC.
Is he?
Yeah.
No wonder he's got crisps named after him.
He's on a contract of 1.75 million or something a year.
Well, it was the ill-fated Salt and Lineker crisps, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Walker's produced Salt and Lineker, and then they were going to do Salty Seaman, and it all went wrong. It all went wrong.
Cheese and Beardsley.
Yeah, there was a cheese and something. I can't remember what the name of the footballer was, but there was one.
Yeah, it'd have to be cheese and Beardsley. It's cheese and onion. I can't think. I'm trying to think of a football that rhymes with onion.
There was Salt Lineker. It was Smokey Beckham.
Smokey Beckham.
That was it.
Oh my Lord. Jesus. Oh, I just think, right, people get paid thousands to sit in these marketing departments.
Yeah.
Howard, you've done it again.
They break out the 10 bags of weed and they come up with that. Yeah.
That's what they do. Smokey Beckham. Brilliant.
I think we should name him Smokey Beckham. What about David Seaman? Let's not name one after him. Not sure people are going to buy that. Prawn cocktail flavour? What is it going to be?
Cheese and seaman.
Ew. Why would you do that? Why would you make that flavour? Why would you invent that?
I don't know.
You dirty-minded crisp ruiner.
It's just the way my brain works.
What colour would that pack be?
White. So slightly off yellow.
Salt and shake flavour. Right, quick. And that was what happened with Gary Lineker. Thank you, Gary Lineker, for that trip down memory lane.
What dip would you have with it?
No, let's not go down there. No, I don't know enough football players' names to even think of sauce and condiment-based puns now. It's too late to be thinking of that kind of thing. I'm sure there's probably one called Messi or Mayo or something.
Yeah, Messi. Yeah, Lionel Messi.
So there you go. So you're the expert at thinking of these things. So
that's true. I can
actually hear your cogs turning from where I'm sat across the other side of the country.
They are. But no, I'm not going to go any further.
No, please.
There we go. That's it. That's our 8 games. That's still a lot of games. 2 40 games, which we quite liked. So we've got Matchday 2, which we liked. Slow but methodical. Nay.
Incomprehensible gibberish.
Just nay.
The result of a 7-month-long camping trip to Crete.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They were on some serious Greek mushrooms.
7-year-long trip, wasn't it? Sorry, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Bone Cruncher. More BBC shenanigans.
Cruncher.
Yeah. Outrun. Firetrap. Surprisingly enjoyable.
Yeah, good. One of the best ones of the lot.
Yeah, Freddy Hardest. Surprisingly hard and stupid.
Yeah, it's strange they named it after what it is. Hard.
Absolutely. Through the Poo the Crap Door.
Remember, don't you open that trapdoor. That
So
was the instruction,
childish.
you stupid idiots.
I know.
Poo the trapdoor. Poo the crap dog. Brilliant.
And then finally, Gary Lineker's gone missing in Superstar Soccer. So there you go. That's it. That's our 8 games, and obviously the TV and stuff. We are done for the week. It just behooves me to sort of say, yes, things are tight. I know money is, I understand it for everyone, but if anybody does or wants to support the podcast, you can do so by going over to our Patreon. And that's patreon.com/Zapped to the past. Where for £1 you can throw us £1, and that's cool. Or you can get the full scoop of everything. Get early access to
I
the.
was going to say the full Monty then. After that
You could get the full
conversation we had
Monty.
about salty semen, I don't think I want to think about that.
The full scoop of everything. full sweet and sour.
The full dip.
Absolutely. Oh, that dip's so sweet.
A nice sticky bicky for you.
You can get the episodes early, so we release them on a Friday instead of the Monday. You can get hold of them. You can join our Discord server. You can join all that. You can ask us questions or ask the podcast and all of the stuff, whatever we can think of.
Yeah,
you get
loads of stuff.
Loads of stuff. So if you want to be part of that, then head over to, as I said, patreon.com/Zapped to the past, or rate us on iTunes and things like that. Give us a rating.
Do that. Do
just
that.
like to say a massive shout out and thanks. It would be a couple of weeks back by the time you hear this, but we were featured in the September issue of Retro Gamer.
Woo! We certainly were. Wow.
So if you
double
want to
page.
see what our mugs actually look like,
God help you.
then go get it. It should still be available by the time you hear this. Sorry. So if you want to see us in there, that's cool. You know, we're in there. So go support that magazine because it's ace. Obviously, I mean, you probably already know about Retro Gaming. You probably already get it, but there it is. We're in it. So that's always cool. And I'd just like to say a massive thank you to them for including us. It was just ace.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing.
What a unexpected
Great
honor that
privilege.
was. Yeah.
You
Wow.
guys, honestly, you're so cool.
I know, it's ace. I think that's it. We got anything else you want to add?
No. Just remember that we play these games so you don't have to, but I'm starting to think that some people should actually play some of these games, even though we say you don't have to, just so you can experience the pain of things like I.
Nay.
Maybe someone could figure it out.
Nay. I just said it's nay. The eyes have it. No, nay.
Nay. The nays have it. Nay. No.
Now run. Poo the crap door. Nay.
Yeah. What have we got coming up next time then?
Oh, next week. Yeah, let's have a look. We finish off. Do we finish off? Yes, we finish off
the last
February. It's the
part.
last one. So obviously we've got films and stuff, but games-wise, we've got 720 degrees.
Ooh, crap. That's skateboarding one.
It is.
Aye.
We've got Ninja Hamster,
Oh, God.
I Alien,
Oh, that doesn't sound very good.
Jinx,
I remember the music for Jinx being good.
Deflector, which I think is supposed to be quite a decent puzzle
Deflector's
game.
is pretty good, actually. Yeah, that's pretty good.
ATV Simulator,
That doesn't sound so great.
Grand Prix Simulator,
Also, doesn't sound great.
Ramparts,
Oh, that's a weird little game, that.
and finally Galactic Games.
Oh, don't tell me that's a multi-sport game set in
Bound to be.
space.
Bound to be stupid. With controls you won't be able to understand. Move it up, down, thrice nay, and then hop, and then hop.
Stupid games.
We will find out next week. I'm not looking at it. It's the last game of the month. And then
It
obviously we've got the charts and stuff. And I don't know. I think we might have some crap verts, I think.
No, maybe there is. Maybe there is a couple.
I'm not sure.
I think there is. Yeah, I think there is.
There is some, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Goodness me.
Yeah.
There really is.
There really is.
I'm not even going to. I shouldn't have looked because I don't normally, but I just wanted to see if there was one, and I saw that.
The
And
fir-
I'm
what, the first one?
Yes, so there is. Bloody well, is a.
There's
Crap,
three.
that's a crap ver and a half. I'm not looking at the other ones. Why are those games advertising that so expensive? We'll save that. Save it.
Yeah. Well, we've actually entered the advent of early Amiga advertising. That's what
Brilliant.
these are.
Yes. So they're not going to be good, and that's good for us.
They're not, no. But we've also got the charts. So we'll see if the February chart is as drunk as the January chart.
Are they sobered up with looking at some of the games that have come out in February? Like, oh God, are they going to chart any of those?
I don't know.
Bad
They
Cat, is that really going to enter the chart?
They haven't, because I'm just looking at the chart now and there's errors already.
Yay.
There we go. That's what we've got coming up next week. So join in for that. Finish off February, and that'll be fun. So, as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
I have been Graham. Gary Lineker sponsors me, Raddings.
And I have been Poo the Crap Door. we have been Poo the Crap Door, and we will join you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.